Thanks, Ali. And to our viewers, you're in the Situation Room, where new pictures and information are arriving all the time. Standing by, CNN reporters across the United States and around the world to bring you today's top stories. Happening now, steaming toward safety. Hundreds of Americans now are on their way to Cyprus, leaving the bloodshed in Lebanon behind them. It's 11 p.m. in Beirut, where the Prime Minister says Israeli airstrikes are taking what he calls an unimaginable toll. We'll have live reports on the attacks and on the exodus. Also this hour, Hezbollah strikes against Israel, claiming yet more casualties, including children and soldiers. We're tracking the latest rocket fire into northern Israel and rare ground conflict as well. Plus, President Bush using his veto power for the very first time. It's 4 p.m. here in Washington, where Mr. Bush is rejecting an embryonic stem cell research bill passed by Congress. We're following this major political clash and what happens next. I'm Will Flitzer. You're in the Situation Room. Middle East crisis this hour, new deaths, desperate diplomacy, and an all-out evacuation of U.S. citizens. The cruise ship, the Orient Queen, now is heading towards Cyprus with about 1,000 Americans and Britons on board. Another 3,000 U.S. citizens are expected to flee the fighting tomorrow, again by sea. And by air, U.S. military helicopters have been taking Americans from the U.S. Embassy outside of Beirut to safer ground. Inside Beirut, new explosions were just heard after nightfall. The official Lebanese security sources say 216 Lebanese have been killed. Lebanon's prime minister, though, is saying more than 300 people have been killed by Israeli airstrikes and more than 1,000 have been injured. Also today, one of the few direct engagements between Israeli troops and Hezbollah guerrillas. It happened in southern Lebanon. 2 Israeli soldiers were killed in what was described as very heavy fighting. And Israeli police say 2 children were killed when a Hezbollah rocket hit the northern Israeli town of Nazareth. At least 29 Israelis now have been killed in a week of warfare triggered by Hezbollah's capture of 2 Israeli soldiers. On the diplomatic front, Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice now plans to meet tomorrow night in New York with the United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan. On Friday, she'll go to the United Nations to hear a UN team's assessment of the Middle East crisis. Our correspondents are in place across the region right now. CNN's Anderson Cooper, he's standing by in Cyprus, where the evacuees are coming in. Ben Wiedemann is in Beirut. Let's check in first with our chief international correspondent, Christiane Amanpour. She's in northern Israel. Christiane, what's the latest on that front?
Well, Wolf, if there was any necessity to prove that these rockets have not yet been silenced, today was it. It was the fiercest clash between Hezbollah guerrillas just across the border from where we are and the Israeli forces. They had a fierce, direct confrontation, partly across their battlefield, and some of it was much closer in, including in this little town just a few hours ago, and this was one of the biggest engagements to date. The fiercest clashes yet between the Israeli army and Hezbollah guerrillas are here in Avivim, right on the Lebanese border. Israeli tanks pitted against Hezbollah mortars and rockets. Israel has taken casualties in this operation. 2 soldiers were killed and the injured were loaded into an ambulance and rushed to the nearest hospital. All the while, sirens wail, warning of the next rocket salvo. And it's not just humans, but hardware too. An Israeli tank is pulled limping off the battlefield. The Israeli military says this action is aimed at taking out Hezbollah posts along the border. Israel has sent in tanks to this battle, and we've been hearing the sound of outgoing tank fire. Meantime, around the hills in this region, peppered with smoke and flames, as Hezbollah rockets are still making their mark. 2 children were killed when rockets hit the town of Nazareth. They have also again struck Haifa, Tiberias, and all this part of northern Israel. Villages and hillsides are billowing with smoke. Buildings here in Dishan are aflame. Overhead comes a flying fire extinguisher, dropping red powder to dampen the blaze. It circles again and again over the village, over the slopes. Meantime, the air raid siren sounds again as the town of Avivim, scene of the worst fighting, finally gets a direct Hezbollah hit. So again and again, when we ask commanders what it is, what is the final aim, they say that we simply are going to create a buffer zone. We're going to wait and see whether the Lebanese government will eventually be able to fill that with the Lebanese army or whether there's an international force. But we're hearing, and especially diplomats who are telling CNN in Washington, that any force, and we're also hearing this from diplomats who are involved in the negotiations, that if there was to be any international force to keep these sides apart, it would have to be one that would be prepared to fight, because the ultimate goal, they say, is to disarm Hezbollah. And that, they say, might make it difficult to get countries to contribute troops to such an international force. Wolf?
What do we know, Christian, about these relatively limited, small-scale Israeli incursions on the ground into southern Lebanon?
Well, just what we're being told, essentially, is that this has been going on for several days. It's designed to take out the outposts of Hezbollah. It's designed to clear the border area, the immediate border area, because this is what the Israelis say that they are not going to tolerate anymore, that they're not going to go back to what it was like after this fighting or after a ceasefire is over. They're not going to go back to what it was like just before it started, where Hezbollah had built up positions along the border and was able, as we've seen, to target inside this country. So the operation, we're told, is aimed at pinpointing tunnels, mine areas, pinpointing all sorts of outposts and trying to get rid of them. But it's difficult. It's very difficult. It sounds enormously complicated and very dangerous work. Christian, we're going to be checking back with you throughout the Situation Room here today. Christian Amanpour doing, as usual, an excellent job for us in northern Israel. Now to that ship full of Americans heading to a safe haven in Cyprus after living in danger and fear in Lebanon for a full week. CNN's Anderson Cooper is in Larnaca in Cyprus right now. The Orient Queen, that ship is expected to arrive when, Anderson?
It's expected to arrive around 2 a.m. local time, which is just 3 hours from now. But if the past days are any example, these ships tend to arrive much later than the time they're anticipated. So we don't know. We do know, according to Marine Corps Brigadier General Jensen, who's in charge of this whole operation, there are about 1,000 Americans on board that ship. By the end of tonight, by the time they arrive, about 1,500 Americans will so far have been evacuated over the course of the last several days. As you know, Wolf, a lot of those evacuations, not just by ship here on the Orient Queen, but mostly by helicopters over the last several days, Chinook helicopters, Marine Corps helicopters. But now the focus is really shifting to try to get as many numbers of people out as possible. They believe that tomorrow alone they will be able to get out some 3,000 Americans. The problem is they don't have an accurate number of how many Americans really need to get out. We've all heard this 25,000 figure. That's the number of Americans trapped, believed, in Lebanon. But the Marine Corps General today said he believes many of those will decide to stay, and people are changing their minds. So it's a very fluid situation. His message, though, he has heard the frustration of Americans on the ground there. His message is that America is coming. People just have to hold on. Everyone will get out who wants to get out, Will.
And walk us through the process. What happens when the Americans arrive in Larnaca, which is a beautiful little town? It's usually a resort for a lot of tourists. What happens to these thousands of Americans once they get to Cyprus?
It's going to be confusing. I think that's safe to say. So far, people have been coming in sort of drips and drabs, several hundred at a time, mostly Europeans, a few dozens Americans. The diplomatic representation here, the American consular officials, are working very hard with the Marine Corps, with the military, to try to coordinate getting as many Americans possible who do arrive off the island as quickly as possible, chartering flights. And there are a lot of international flights out of Cyprus. It is a tourist destination for a lot of Europeans, but these flights are filling up fast. Hotel rooms are filling up fast. You know, it's going to be expensive for people to find rooms, to find flights. It's going to be a challenge logistically, no doubt about it, not just getting people to here in Cyprus, but getting them off this island and getting them comfortable, even finding buses to bring them to hotels. I know there's already a shortage of buses. They're putting calls out to bus drivers on the island, trying to get as many buses here as possible. They simply, are sort of gearing for the worst and trying to anticipate several thousand people showing up here in the middle of the night, Wolf.
Is it too early to make any assessments on the U.S. government's evacuation plan right now? You're in a unique situation, Anderson, as all of our viewers will remember. You were at Katrina in New Orleans when that evacuation process was going forward. There's been lots of criticism of that, as all of us know. And now here in Washington, there's criticism emerging of the U.S. government being slow in responding to this crisis. This is day 8 of this war. Can you give us a little perspective from what you've seen?
I don't think I'm really in a position to do that. I think to a lot of people here, it smacks of politics, hearing the debate going on in the United States among Democrats and Republicans invoking the name of Katrina. That seems very far away. I think it caught a lot of people here by surprise. There's certainly a lot of criticism. We've been hearing it, no doubt. It's been on CNN all day and other networks. Criticism, people on the ground, frustrated, angry Americans who have had to wait in lines, who've been told one thing, who've been put on hold. There's no doubt about it. What the military will tell you, when the Marine Corps Brigadier General Jensen said to me today is, look, this is a massive logistical operation. And is it going fast enough? His answer, when I asked him that question, it can never go fast enough when Americans are in danger and when Americans are in harm's way. That's the best that they can do at this point. What Americans on the ground in Beirut are pointing out is, look, European nations, French nations have gotten their personnel out in greater numbers than the Americans thus far. All of that is true. A French frigate is arriving right now here in the port. It's very hard, though, to make comparisons, at least from my perspective on the ground, Wolf.
Anderson Cooper, thanks very much. We're going to be checking back with you. And a note to our viewers, Anderson Cooper is going to have 2 hours of live television tonight. He's been reporting all this week, last week as well, from the Middle East. Anderson Cooper 360 airs tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, 2 hours on the Middle East crisis with Anderson. Evacuees from Lebanon are leaving behind a country that, according to its prime minister, has been, quote, torn to shreds. Israeli forces hit new Hezbollah targets inside Lebanon today. Let's bring in CNN's Ben Wiedemann. He's on the scene for us in Beirut with more on what has happened today. Ben?
Yes, Wolf, this was probably the bloodiest day so far in Israel's 8-day incursion, or rather offensive against Lebanon. According to the Lebanese Prime Minister Fouad Siniora, the death toll now is about 300 from this offensive, although medical sources here in Beirut tell us that their number is at around 216. Now, there was intense military activity in southern Lebanon, several very major incidents down there. In Beirut itself, this afternoon, a car spare parts warehouse near the airport was hit, and we were there, in fact, this afternoon, and that was still burning intensely. Now, this evening at about sundown, there were several large explosions. That was when the southern suburb of Beirut, which is, of course, a Hezbollah stronghold, was hit. I went there immediately afterwards. It was fascinating. The entire area was completely dark. All cars were told to turn off their lights. We tried to go there to take pictures of the damaged buildings, but were told in no uncertain terms by Hezbollah gunmen that we should leave the area immediately. But it looked like there was some fairly extensive damage there. Wolf?
Ben Wiedemann, we're going to be coming back to you throughout this program as well. Thank you very much for that. In the meantime, let's go up to New York. Jack Cafferty's watching all of this from his vantage point there. Jack?
Wolf, if America wants to ignite World War III, we welcome it. That was the Iranian Hezbollah spokesman claiming they're ready to attack Israeli and U.S. interests around the world. He says the group has 2,000 volunteers who registered since last year, and they are only awaiting the supreme leader's green light to act. That would be the Ayatollah Khamenei. The FBI says there's no specific intelligence pointing to an attack on U.S. soil by Hezbollah, but officials are looking for possible Hezbollah agents here. So far, the group is focused on fundraising activities here in the United States, but there are concerns that Hezbollah could turn to attacks in America out of solidarity with Iran, one of its sponsors. Hezbollah has attacked American targets before, but not inside the country. They blew up the Marine barracks in Beirut in 1983, killed 240 of our soldiers. They blew up the U.S. Embassy Annex in Beirut in 1984, and they hijacked a TWA flight in 1985. So here's the question. How concerned are you that Hezbollah might attack in the United States? Email your thoughts to CaffertyFile@CNN.com or go to CNN.com/CaffertyFile. Wolf.
I know there's deep concern in official government circles here in Washington. We're going to have more on this story coming up as well, Jack. Thank you very much for that. Coming up, the Bush administration says no to an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. We're going to go live to the White House for new developments on the diplomatic front. Plus, I'll speak with one of the major players in this crisis, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. He'll join us live in a few minutes. And later, George W. Bush does what he's never done before as president. He vetoes a bill. It's the latest chapter in the political fight over stem cell research. Stay with us. You're in The Situation Room.
At Beach's ultra-inclusive family resorts, everything you dream about magically comes true. Gliding and sliding and splashing with glee. Diving and dining, it's all included, you see. Even Elmo and friends from Sesame Street. Beach's makes every day in paradise perfect.
This July, get up to 50% off depending on date of travel. Call 1-800-BEACHES.
I'm sorry, Jake was next.
Yeah, well, we're next now.
Well, washed all the dishes and I did a lot more. I even bought the dinner at the grocery store. And now, Mom, you're buying the key next door. This little girl's gonna rock it. I left some biscuits for the pup. I put fresh water in his cup. And now I'm off, I'm going.
My name is Leonard Ross. I was born in 1906.
The Dust Bowl, the Depression, and 2 World Wars. That's just a few of the things Rosie Ross has seen in his lifetime. Through it all, he's had 2 great loves, music and his own independence.
If it's Friday, I'm playing at the Pinecone Inn.
Long-term care insurance from Genworth Financial can help you live on your own terms in your own home, receiving covered benefits where and when you choose. Genworth Financial, insurance for living, solutions for life.
Tonight on 360, evacuations growing. No end to the fighting. Where do we go from here? Is a ground war next? 360 from the Middle East.
Roger.
As a kid, I used technology to help people do better. Today, Scottrade does the same for online investors. If you've been thinking about moving your account, this is the perfect time to come to Scottrade. With powerful trading tools and fast, accurate $7 trades, Scottrade gives you more for your money.
Yeah! Woohoo! Who's fast? I'm fast. Yes! Bang! Gotcha!
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Do you work here?
Yeah! I started back in April with, no. Look, please don't make me leave. My company only has DSL.
Make your office more productive with speeds up to twice as fast as DSL, McAfee security included free, and 24-hour support. Comcast Workplace. Speed, security, know-how.
Paul is on now. CNN tonight, 8 Eastern.
Another very violent day on both sides of the Israeli-Lebanese border. Israeli forces and Hezbollah militants clashed on the ground in Lebanon. 2 Israeli soldiers were killed. Lebanon's official death toll right now stands at 216, but the Lebanese prime minister says more than 300 are dead. Israel says more than 29 of its people have been killed. Hundreds have been wounded on both sides. This is day 8 of the war. The Middle East crisis is prompting new moves today by officials here in the United States as well. The House is nearing completing a debate pretty soon on a resolution that would strongly support Israel. It's expected to be approved tomorrow. The Senate passed a similar measure yesterday, which also holds Syria and Iran responsible for attacks against Israel by Hezbollah and Hamas militants. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, meanwhile, is preparing for her just-announced meeting at the United Nations. She heads to New York tomorrow. Let's get some more on what's going on in Washington on this front. We'll go to our White House correspondent, Elaine Quijano. Elaine?
And Wolf, Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice will be having dinner tomorrow with the UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, as well as the EU's foreign policy chief, Javier Solana. Then on Friday, she's going to be briefed by a UN team just back from the Middle East. All of this is coming in advance of an expected trip by Secretary Rice herself to the region, though it's not clear exactly when that trip might happen. A senior official says that it would not happen before next week. U.S. officials say that more time is needed to create conditions on the ground that ensure a more permanent change in the situation there, not just a ceasefire. Meantime, here at the White House, officials continue to put the blame on Hezbollah and its backers, Iran and Syria. Today, White House Press Secretary Tony Snow was asked why President Bush himself doesn't just pick up the phone and call Syria's President al-Assad to bring an end to the fighting. Tony Snow said that other administrations have tried talking to Syria in the past without producing any results, and he said bluntly, quote, "The track record stinks."
There is absolutely no reason to assume, based on the track record, that negotiations and conversations with the Syrians would yield any fruit. And as a consequence, rather than doing that, I think it is incumbent on the United States to use whatever moral force and moral power it has, and also let allies do the talking.
And in fact, President Bush has been talking to allies in the region. Last night, the president called Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah about the crisis, both leaders expressing concern about civilians caught up in the fighting, and they agreed that all efforts should be made to help the Lebanese people. Wolf.
The president, though, for the time being, remaining in Washington, monitoring the situation from the White House.
Absolutely. And for now, Secretary Rice certainly waiting to see what, in fact, this UN team has discovered and what might be the possible options. The White House being very careful at this point, obviously, in how it weighs in on this.
Elaine, thank you very much for that. Coming up, is the Bush administration's strategy in the Middle East crisis working? I'll ask two experts, Tori Clark and Joe Lockhart. Former government officials both. They're standing by for our strategy session. But up next, President Bush strikes down a bill to increase stem cell research. We'll get the story behind Mr. Bush's first veto as president. Stay with us.
Concerning the use of stem cells
CNN tonight at 8. The crisis in the Middle East rages on, and CNN is there, covering the story from both sides. Paul Hassan brings you global reaction, analysis, and examines the impact on the U.S. Paul Hassan now, CNN tonight, 8 Eastern.
LL Bean gear. If it lives up to our test, you can be sure it will live up to yours. For a free catalog of everything you need for fall, call us or shop now at llbean.com.
Before it became my pride, it was my passion.
Without strong shoulders, who would support them? One A Day wants you to stay strong for them. Because as early as 30, women can start to lose bone mass. That's why there's One A Day Women's, a complete multivitamin with twice the calcium of Centrum. One A Day Women's.
Pure Dell. It's an uncomplicated approach to increased productivity. With scalable Linux and data management solutions, you can get more real-time information to streamline your supply chain. And it all runs on new Dell PowerEdge servers featuring the reliability of dual-core Intel Xeon processors. So growth isn't just a goal, it's a given. That's the direct path to success. That's pure Dell.
Pop quiz. What midsize sedan has more space and power than Camry, has 6 standard airbags, gets up to 34 miles per gallon, and starts under $16,000? Is it A, the all-new Kia Optima, B, the brand-new Kia Optima, C, the shiny new Kia Optima, or D, all of the above? Correct! You picked the Kia Optima, and with the 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, there really is no other choice. Hurry in and get 1,000 cash back on the all-new Kia Optima, the best value on the road.
The unexpected, the unforeseen, the unimaginable.
It's all possible in the future. CNN explores the next decade to discover tomorrow's solutions to today's issues. From the high cost of a college education to saving for retirement, is America spending now only to pay later? Welcome to the future, a special series all this week on CNN. Sponsored by learnaboutcoal.org.
Welcome back to the Situation Room. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. We're keeping a very close watch on the evacuation of Americans and other foreigners from Lebanon. A shipload of evacuees is due in Cyprus in a few hours. We're going to bring you that right here in the Situation Room. We're also standing by to speak live with Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. That's coming up momentarily. But right now, an unprecedented moment for President Bush. His first veto in more than 5 years he's been in the White House. Mr. Bush rejected an embryonic stem cell research bill passed by Congress, saying it crosses a moral boundary. Let's bring in our congressional correspondent, Dana Bash. Dana?
Wolf, it's a controversial issue, and right now Republicans are working here at warp speed, trying to put it behind them. The House, in just a little bit more than an hour, will actually vote on whether to override that veto. That is all but certain to fail. The bill would have lifted restrictions on federal funding for embryonic stem cell research, and Democrats say in rejecting that, the president defied the will of the people, and they say Republicans will pay a political price. His first veto was behind closed doors, no photographs, and later, no apologies.
If this bill were to become law, American taxpayers would, for the first time in our history, be compelled to fund the deliberate destruction of human embryos. And I'm not going to allow it.
Some self-described pro-life Republicans disagree with the president, saying embryonic stem cell research holds promise to save lives. Conservatives here applauded Mr. Bush for sticking with conviction.
It crosses a moral boundary that our decent society needs to respect, so I vetoed it.
Democrats see this as an election year miscalculation they can leverage in close congressional races.
His first veto will be a veto that will dash the hopes of tens of millions of Americans who suffer from diabetes and Parkinson's.
The stem cell debate is a major campaign issue in places like Missouri, where endangered Republican Senator Jim Talent was already being pounded by his challenger as out of the mainstream. He says he voted against the measure as a matter of principle. Concerned Republicans, led by Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, who faces perhaps the stiffest election challenge, had hoped to find political cover by sending the president a measure promoting alternatives to embryonic stem cell research.
We can be pro-science and do so in an ethical fashion.
But after it passed the Senate, it failed in the House, and Republican leaders there decided to drop it rather than risk another bruising debate. Now, Democrats today are citing poll numbers and data that they say proves this issue can propel some of their candidates to victory. But will Republicans point to all the time and energy John Kerry spent on this running for president in 2004, and they say that that is proof that there is no evidence this issue is a make-or-break one when it comes to the campaign trail. Wolf?
Dana Bash on Capitol Hill. Thank you, Dana, for that. We're standing by to speak live with Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Dan Gillerman. We'll go to the United Nations in a moment, but quickly I want to check some other important stories making headlines right now. CNN's Frederica Whitfield standing by from the CNN Center. Hi, Fred.
Hello to you, Wolf. Another deadly wave of assaults in Iraq. At least 19 people were killed in attacks in Baghdad and Kirkuk today, among them 4 members of the same family. Meanwhile, more than 20 members of the group that cares for Sunni religious sites have been kidnapped. The latest victims join the 14,000 civilians that UN officials say have been killed in Iraq since the beginning of the year. More earthquakes in Indonesia shaking up residents in the capital of Jakarta and sending villagers in coastal towns running for higher ground. No reports of any damage or casualties from Wednesday's 6.2 magnitude quake. Officials are still searching, however, for victims from Monday's 7.7 magnitude earthquake and the 10-foot-tall tsunami it triggered. More than 500 people were killed. Some 270 people are still missing. And same song, second verse for hurricane-weary residents along the U.S. coast. This time, people in North Carolina are preparing for bad weather. Tropical storm Beryl formed late yesterday afternoon. Top sustained winds are now about 40 miles per hour. Beryl is the second storm of this year's hurricane season. Tropical storm Alberto came ashore in the Florida Panhandle in June. And Wolf, we're still a few weeks away from what would be considered the peak of hurricane season.
All right, Fred, thank you very much. Frederica Whitfield reporting. Let's get back to the story we've been following from every angle here in the Situation Room, the crisis in the Middle East, and now the exodus of U.S. citizens from Lebanon. Right now, a cruise ship packed with about 1,000 Americans is steaming towards Cyprus. Another 3,000 U.S. citizens are expected to be evacuated from Beirut by sea and air tomorrow. On the battlefield, Israeli troops and Hezbollah fighters still are on the attack. And in the northern Israeli city of Nazareth, police say an Hezbollah rocket attack killed 2 children, 3 and 9 years old. And some rare ground fighting in this conflict as well today. Israeli troops moved into southern Lebanon today to try to destroy what they called Hezbollah outposts. 2 Israeli soldiers were killed, bringing Israel's death toll up to 29. Lebanon's prime minister says more than 300 Lebanese have been killed in a week of fighting. Joining us now is Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Dan Gillerman. Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much. What's your government's assessment? What's your assessment right now? How much longer will the fighting go on?
Well, unfortunately, the fighting will go on for as long as necessary for us to finish the job. We cannot allow ourselves to return to a point where the Hezbollah, with its lethal arsenal of weapons, will be able, at whim, to exercise terror both towards us and towards Lebanon and destabilize the whole region. So we have to finish the job. We have to see Hezbollah totally disarmed. We have to see the government of Lebanon exert its authority and sovereignty over the whole of Lebanon and deploy its forces in the south before we can stop this operation.
Yesterday, we heard from the former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who suggested it could last another week, perhaps 2. Is that a rough assessment that you share?
Well, who am I to argue with Ehud Barak? But I don't think it would be very wise to put a time frame on it. But this is certainly not a matter of hours, unfortunately not even a matter of days. I mean, anybody who witnesses the enormous magnitude of the arsenal of weapons that has been accumulated by the Hezbollah, with weapons continuing to be shipped to them, and only yesterday did we stop additional shipments from Syria, with Iran funding the Hezbollah to the sum of $100 million. The Hezbollah, at the end of the day, is the bloody finger on the long arms and twisted minds of both Iran and Syria. We cannot allow this cesspool to fester on our border and to cause so much damage both to us and to Lebanon. And, you know, once you start operating on excising a cancerous growth, you don't stop in the middle and sew the patient up and say, okay, live with the other half until it kills you. We have to make sure that Hezbollah is totally excised before we can discuss any kind of solution.
Well, if that's the goal of the Israeli military, that sounds, at least to this outside observer, it's going to take a lot longer than a week or 2.
Well, it may, and this outside observer is a great expert on the Middle East, and I would never argue with you, Wolf, but it could, I think, last longer. Everybody realizes that the Hezbollah has prepared over the last 5 years over 13,000 rockets. It is all over Lebanon. It is totally impossible to distinguish between Hezbollah and Lebanon. As the Lebanese ambassador said only yesterday, Hezbollah is everywhere. It is part of Lebanese society. That's what makes it so difficult. That's what makes it so really horrible to deal with, but that's also what makes it so necessary to deal with.
The Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice is going to be at the United Nations meeting with Kofi Annan tomorrow night in New York. What do you want her to do? Because she's planning on going to the region.
Well, it would be presumptuous of me to tell the Secretary of State what to do. I totally respect her judgment, and I'm sure that she'll do what she thinks is best first for the United States, but I'm sure she also has the interests of Israel at heart. But I think the Secretary realizes, like most of the world, and I can tell you that even at the United Nations, which hasn't always been the most hospitable and sympathetic body to Israel, I can feel a lot of understanding, if not sympathy, then at least understanding for what we're doing. And maybe that is because the rest of the world understands that we're doing its work for it. We're fighting terror. We're fighting a lethal, ruthless organization which today fired rockets at Nazareth and killed 2, 3, and 9-year-old children. We thought they only wanted to kill Israelis and Jews. It seems they don't care who they kill. They target Muslims, they target Christians. This horrible, torturous body has to be excised from the heart of Lebanon and from the body of our region. And I hope that the Secretary of State shares that view and will do exactly what is necessary to see that Resolution 1559 is implemented, that the Hezbollah is disarmed, and that Lebanon finally becomes a free and prosperous country living in peace side by side with Israel.
We're almost out of time, Mr. Ambassador, but in the process of trying to achieve your military objectives, Lebanon's Prime Minister Fouad Siniora said you're destroying his country, you're destroying the infrastructure. More than 300 Lebanese civilians have been killed. That's what he said earlier today, and the argument is that Israel's response to the kidnapping and killing of its soldiers has been disproportionate. What do you say to your critics?
I agree with some of our critics who may claim that our response has been disproportionate only for the simple reason that had they been attacked the way we were, their response would have been far harsher. And I know which countries I'm talking about. As to the Prime Minister of Lebanon, I think he has only himself to blame. He has been asked, demanded, beseeched by the international community, by the Security Council, by the Quartet, to see to it that the Hezbollah is disarmed, that Resolution 1559 that calls for exactly that is implemented. He has allowed this country to be taken hostage, to be raped by tyrants in the north and by terrorists in the south. And the fact that Lebanon today is suffering is not something we wanted. We have great respect for Lebanon. We have no quarrel or fight with Lebanon. But when you have a country infiltrated, raped, and held hostage to such an extent by a proxy of Iran in Syria, that is the price that unfortunately also the Lebanese people are paying. We are trying to minimize hurting civilians, but when Hezbollah uses civilians as human shields, sometimes civilians will get hurt.
Ambassador Dan Gillerman, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Wolf.
And coming up here in the Situation Room in the next hour is the White House in a diplomatic bind when it comes to the new crisis in the Middle East. Actually, that's coming up next. Two experts, Tori Clark and Joe Lockhart, they're standing by for today's strategy session. And we'll also hear from a Lebanese politician with a very different perspective on what we just heard from the Israeli ambassador. Stay with us.
I try to do whatever I can to take care of my health. It's a very big part of who I am. So when I found out I had osteoporosis, I knew I had to meet it head on. Then my doctor told me about Boniva, how it helps build strong, healthy bones to prevent fractures with just one pill a month. And I thought, hey, I can do this. Unlike other treatments you have to take once a week, I only need Boniva once a month.
You should not take Boniva if you have low blood calcium, severe kidney disease, or cannot sit or stand for at least 60 minutes. Follow dosing instructions carefully. Stop taking Boniva and tell your doctor if you experience difficult or painful swallowing, chest pain, or severe or continuing heartburn, as these may be signs of serious upper digestive problems.
If you're as determined as I am to have strong, healthy bones, don't wait. Ask your doctor if Boniva is right for you. I'm so glad I did.
Once monthly Boniva. There's only one. Ask your doctor for a free trial offer or call 1-800-4-BONIVA.
Interest rates keep climbing, and so are your monthly payments. Refinance your adjustable rate mortgage with LendingTree and save as much as $250 a month. Call 1-800-555-TREE now to lower your monthly payments. When banks compete, you win. Rates are climbing higher, and so are your interest payments. Refinance your adjustable rate mortgage with LendingTree and save up to $3,000 a year. Call 1-800-555-TREE now before rates climb even higher. When banks compete, you win.
Tell me, energy companies, tell me what's behind the price of gas.
Tell me why world demand for crude oil
determines what I pay
at the pump.
Tell me, how will I be able to drive my kids to school?
To school.
To work.
To work.
Tell me.
Tell me where my energy will come from. Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth.
Tell me how you're investing in this country.
Researching alternative fuels.
Tell me what you're doing.
And what I
can do. Tell me more about the future of energy.
Ask questions, get answers from America's oil and natural gas industry.
Did I scare you? Ooh, this is a great place to watch a scary movie.
You should try Vongo.com. For less than $10 a month, you can download all the scary movies you want. You even get your first 14 days free. Of course, if you prefer comedy or drama, Vongo's got it. Look, Vongo's new. Sometimes new things are scary, but you like scary, right?
Tomorrow on American Morning, crisis in the Middle East, and Soledad O'Brien is there live. Find out what happened last night and what's next. American Morning, CNN tomorrow, 6 a.m. Eastern.
Welcome back in our strategy session today, the meltdown in the Middle East and the diplomatic challenges for the Bush administration. Joining us now, former Clinton White House Press Secretary Joe Lockhart and CNN political analyst, former Pentagon spokeswoman Tori Clark. Tori, how does the administration try to become an honest broker in easing this crisis when the U.S., the Bush administration, has been so strongly supporting one side, namely the Israelis?
Well, very carefully, and it's very hard, obviously, but I think what we might be seeing publicly is not necessarily reflective of all that is going on. And there clearly are some very, very serious efforts behind the scenes to make this not just about the United States and Israel and what's going on in Lebanon, but what is going on in the Middle East more broadly. And one of the efforts they've been working on, which I don't think has gotten the attention it deserves, is things like the Arab League denouncing Hezbollah. That's extraordinary. You know this better than anybody. Absolutely extraordinary for the Arab League to come out and denounce Hezbollah at a time of any conflict with Israel. So there are some signs there that the efforts to make it very much a multinational effort are succeeding.
Yesterday, your former top diplomat during the Clinton administration, Madeleine Albright, was here in the Situation Room, and I asked her if she had any complaints or criticism of the way the president is handling this crisis, and she said basically no.
Well, I think I would agree with Tori on the first part, which is it is very complicated, and on the second part, which is you don't always see everything that's going on. I do think that if this drags out a lot longer, we will see a situation where we have diminished influence there. The Bush administration, I think, took on their part, a principled policy position that said that stepping away and not playing the active, on-the-ground, honest broker role was in our interest. I think a lot of us disagreed with that decision, and I think if this thing stretches out, that diminished influence, I think, will become very important and a real problem.
I think it's entirely possible. I think if it gives us any hope, is that right now, at least in this country, what we're seeing is people are actually thinking before they're talking. And politicians are restraining themselves from their usual inclination to get out in front of the cameras and speak no matter what. And it's a very, very good sign, and I hope we can keep that up for some time.
As you well know, because you were the White House press secretary, the former President Bill Clinton spent an enormous amount of time dealing with the Israeli-Arab problem at Camp David, at the Wye River plantation, and all of that. A lot of us who covered that administration remember it very vividly. Some of the Democrats, though, like Joe Biden, are criticizing this president sort of for neglecting the Israeli-Arab problem during the first 5 years of his term.
I certainly think he's taken a different approach and a more hands-off approach. And I agree there's been a lot of responsible things, but I'm going to point out one that I think was irresponsible, and I think that it's from Secretary of State Rice. She, in an effort to defend the policy, made the point that somehow the on-the-ground, honest broker work done from Jimmy Carter on a bipartisan basis was a failure and helped al-Qaeda rise in that area. And I think that's disingenuous at best and a little bit irresponsible. It is hard work, though. I spent hundreds of hours at Camp David with both sides, with Palestinians, Israelis, Syrians in Shepherdstown and Geneva. It is very, very hard work. It is maddening work, but it's important work. And I think at this point in time, we'd be better off if we had a little more direct influence. But, I think as Tori said, even with that, there's no pre-packaged solution to this.
Would it make sense, even at this late stage, for the U.S. at a very high level to start talking to the Syrians who clearly are controlling some of the developments in Lebanon?
Possibly, but I think what really matters is that kind of decision, how public is the role of the United States? How forward-leaning are they in being the ones in charge of these negotiations? And I just put myself in the shoes of the people in that part of the world thinking, okay, we've got to be in charge of this. If it's going to be a long-term solution, we've got to be the ones who arrive at it, perhaps with the help and the engagement of the United States. But any decisions on that have got to be made in consultation with our friends and allies in the region.
We got to leave it right there. Good discussion, Tori. Thanks very much. Joe Lockhart, we're going to have you back, talk about your new website, Hot Soup. That's a separate subject, not necessarily right now, because I know you're only launching it in October.
Thank you, Wolf.
So we'll have you back to talk about that. Coming up, U.S. law enforcement agencies are now being warned to keep an eye on people in this country with ties to Hezbollah. Our justice correspondent Kelly Arena is standing by with new developments on that front, a Security Watch story. Up next, though, he was the boy wonder of the religious right, but now Ralph Reed is out. We're going to tell you what happened. Stay with us. You're in The Situation.
30 years in this house. So many memories, huh?
You know what? Those, good to take with you.
Yeah.
See you in a couple of hours.
Bye-bye.
Hello, you two. I'm Nancy. Let me tell you the story of this amazing house.
Century 21.
Are you getting enough fiber in your diet? To get the 25 to 30 grams of daily fiber you need for ongoing good health, what else would you have time for? That's why there's great tasting Fiber Choice, the chewable fiber supplement. Each bottle contains 180 grams of fiber. You'd need more than 3 bottles of fiber pills at 3 times the price to get the same amount. And try new Fiber Choice Plus Calcium with as much calcium as 14 ounces of milk in each dose. Fiber Choice, original and new Plus Calcium chewable tablets.
Your risks can change quickly. Make sure your insurance stays in sync. Travelers.
Get back to the Middle East in a moment, but there's a developing story we're following in Atlanta. David Mattingly is on the scene for us. What's going on? I take it involves allegations of terrorism.
That's right, Wolf. Coming from the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Atlanta. It involves Syed Ahmed and Ishanil Sadeki, 2 U.S. citizens, both of them with ties to Atlanta. Both of them arrested and now accused of providing or attempting to provide material support to terrorist organizations. This 13-page document was handed to us just a few minutes ago. A very interesting read in some cases. It indicates that the 2 men tried to conduct rudimentary paramilitary training in northwest Georgia, this involving paintball guns. And then they traveled to Canada in February of 2005 to meet with other terrorism suspects, where they discussed the possibility of some targets in the U.S., including military bases, oil storage facilities, and refineries. They also explored the idea, this is very interesting, of how they might disrupt the worldwide global positioning system, those GPS devices that everybody uses today, including the military. They also discussed for plans of that group to go to Pakistan to obtain paramilitary training. When they came back home, the 2 also allegedly had discussed plans for violent jihad in the United States, including, Wolf, the possibility of attacking Dobbs Air Reserve Base that is here in Marietta, Georgia, just north of Atlanta. Back to you.
All right, David, we'll continue to watch this story with you, and stay tuned to CNN day and night for the most reliable news about your security. We're going to get back to the Middle East crisis in a moment, but first, a primary defeat in Georgia that's sending a message to Republicans across the country. Former Christian Coalition leader Ralph Reed loses his bid for the Republican nomination for lieutenant governor of Georgia. He was unable to overcome his ties to disgraced lobbyist Jack Abramoff. Our senior political analyst Bill Schneider is following this important political story. Bill?
Well, Ralph Reed's defeat in Georgia's Republican primary Tuesday was huge political news. But what does it mean?
Tonight, my candidacy for lieutenant governor comes to an end.
Georgia Republican voters handed Ralph Reed, former executive director of the Christian Coalition, a crushing defeat.
This was a huge blowout. Casey Cagle really blew Ralph Reed into the into another state. And that doesn't happen unless you have the Republican Party making a true statement.
What kind of statement?
We're very proud of the campaign that we ran. It was a positive, hopeful campaign about the issues.
Or was it about Reed himself? Reed's opponent accused him of being a hypocrite.
Ralph Reed sold out our values. He made millions with convicted felon Jack Abramoff manipulating Christians for casinos.
Matt Towery, who once chaired Newt Gingrich's political operation but is now a nonpartisan political analyst, says the issue is not just the culture of corruption.
I don't think the public is as obsessed about that as they are about the fact of the culture of do nothing.
What happened to Ralph Reed's fabled grassroots army of Christian conservatives? They stayed home, according to Towery, but that's not all that happened.
Mainstream Republicans, I mean Republicans who have been active for quite a period of time, came out to, quote, rescue their party. They wanted a mainstream candidate.
Reed does not believe his defeat says much about the religious right constituency or its values.
Our values will win in November, I assure you.
Mr. Towery is not so sure.
Talking about a faith-based race or dealing with issues having to do with gay marriages may have worked 2 years ago. It's not working this year.
In the face of public discontent this year, President Bush and Republicans are following the strategy that's worked for them in the past. Rally the base. But at least one reading of Reed's defeat is that strategy may not work this time. Wolf?
Bill Schneider reporting for us. Thank you, Bill. This note as well, Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney will face a runoff election in her bid to keep her seat. The Georgia Democrat failed to grab 50% of the vote in yesterday's primary, her first test with voters since her scuffle with a Capitol Hill police officer earlier this year. She'll have to win another vote. And on Capitol Hill, only a few moments ago, there was new action in the House of Representatives in the culture wars. Members voted to protect the Pledge of Allegiance from federal judges who might try to overturn the phrase, under God. The vote was 260 to 167. The measure now goes to the Senate, where its future is uncertain. Up next, we'll get back to our top story, the crisis in the Middle East. Could the warfare in the Middle East spill over to right here at home? How concerned are you that Hezbollah might attack in the United States? Jack Cafferty will be back with your email.
What's that? You still don't have Netflix?
Well,
It's so easy. You just make a list of the movies you want to rent, and you get your first DVDs in the mail in about 1 business day.
Oh, yeah.
Keep them as long as you want, no late fees. Return each one in a prepaid envelope, and they automatically mail you another one from your list.
It's dope.
Yeah. In fact, I probably have a movie waiting for me at home right now.
Who's that guy?
There's a movie waiting for you at home. Netflix. The DVDs you want, starting at only $5.99 a month, no late fees.
The verdict is in, but it ain't over yet. The rest of the Scott Peterson story.
Nancy Grace, Headline Prime, Friday, 8 Eastern.
Had it with slow downloads? With Comcast high-speed internet, there's no waiting for downloads or a great deal. Call 1-800-COMCAST and save big during our $1 sale. Get 1 month of blazing fast Comcast high-speed internet service for just $1. Free modem lease for 1 full year and professional installation for only $10. Save over $175. Hurry, the $1 sale ends August 7th. So call 1-800-COMCAST today.
Weekdays on CNBC, Ron Insomnia gets into the heart of the day's market action. Hardcore business from all the angles. What you could learn from how the pros make money. An insight that's uniquely Ron. Street Signs, weekdays on CNBC. Make it your business.
Street Signs on CNBC is brought to you locally by Pacific Continental Bank.
VHIX.com helps people find the car they want at a dealer near them. How do we improve that user experience?
Include a vanity mirror so people can get an idea of how they look in their new car.
Give them a free VHIX comb, too. And your idea?
VHIX TV. Not just web pages, cool video test drives powered by Wheels TV.
Cool video test drives now at VHIX.com. Just click Autos on Comcast.net. Check out the new hit movies you can order on demand, and look what you can order right now.
My milkshake brings
from the makers of Scary Movie.
Idiot. Hell no, I won't marry you. Go!
Date Movie, now on demand.
Make some noise for America.
Dave Chappelle is throwing a party, and you're invited.
Demolition.
Dave Chappelle's Block Party, now on demand. Hit movies without the trip to the video store. On demand with Comcast Digital Cable.
American evacuated from Beirut, plus a former Hezbollah hostage. Larry King, 9 Eastern.
Let's check in with Jack with the Cafferty file. Jack.
The Iranian Hezbollah spokesman says they are ready to attack Israeli and U.S. interests around the world. The FBI says there's no specific intelligence pointing to an attack on U.S. soil, but officials are looking for possible Hezbollah agents here. The question is, how concerned are you Hezbollah might attack inside the United States? Steve in Philadelphia writes, I'm very concerned. We had to learn the hard way that al-Qaeda had the ability to attack within our borders. Are we just going to sit back and wait until we learn what Hezbollah is able to do? Marty in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, of course Hezbollah will attack the United States in the future. We're creating a new al-Qaeda by allowing Israel to massacre Lebanese women and children. This is Lebanon's 9/11. Peggy in Sedona, Arizona, just as terribly afraid as I was about Saddam's ability and desire to throw a nuclear bomb at us with his slingshot. Thomas in Maryland, I think Hezbollah is a little too preoccupied dodging bullets at the moment for me to be concerned about a possible attack on the United States. And besides, how are they going to get into the country? Certainly not across the border. Dan in Carmel, California, I think if we allow Israel to finish their attacks, Hezbollah will be history. We won't have to worry about them anymore. Joseph in San Jose, California, all President Bush has to do is threaten Hezbollah with a retaliatory groping, much like he did to Angela Merkel at the G8 meeting, and we'll be safe. And Brian writes, hey, Jack, I find today's questions too vague to reply. Okay, Brian.
Jack, thank you very much. Jack
You're
Cafferty
welcome,
with
Wolf.
the Cafferty file. Thank you. Still to come, the Middle East crisis online. People in the danger zone are getting information out on the internet right now. We'll check that out. Plus, we'll have live reports from the front lines coming up right at the top of the hour. Stay with us. You're in The Situation.
I'm sorry, Jake was next.
Yeah, well, we're next now.
Well, washed all the dishes and I did a lot more. I even bought the dinner at the grocery store. And now, Mom, you find the key next door. This little girl's gonna rock it. I left some biscuits for the pup. I put fresh water in his cup. And now I'm off and going.
Still have an adjustable mortgage? Refinance now to a low fixed rate from Ditech.com. We'll also guarantee you the lowest rate and fee. At Ditech, refinancing is quick and easy, even if your credit is less than perfect. Log on or call 1-800-71-FIX.
When you get every ATM fee from any machine at any bank, anywhere in the country automatically refunded, you just have to celebrate. Go to eTrade.com and be blown away.
With Vonage, I talk as much as I want and pay a lot less. It's just $24.99 a month, and that includes voicemail, caller ID, three-way calling, and a lot more. The voice quality's great, and I even get to keep my same phone and phone number. I've had Vonage for 4 months. Should have gotten it a long time ago.
We're not out to change the world, just the way you talk to it. Sign up now and get your first month free. Call 1-800-399-5210.
We want to give you every angle to the raging conflict in the Middle East right now, and the internet is providing a whole new dimension. Our internet reporter, Jackie Schechter, is standing by with more. Jackie?
Well, day 8 of the conflict in the Middle East, and we're continuing to see people put personal photos, videos, accounts online. This latest one that we've pulled up for you here is a family in Haifa. They're in a hallway. You should be able to hear the sirens blaring there in the background. You can see a boy's almost bored at this point. His mother in the bottom corner hiding her head underneath a pillow. There's a series of videos. This is just one of them. We spoke to the family, and they said that they are hiding in the hallway because they don't have a local bunker. Others are passing the time by blogging. You can take a look at Carmia here, also in Haifa. She's blogging updates at what's going on. She also took a photo tour of her local bunker. I posted that online. She said it doesn't smell very good. There wasn't anybody there when they went there, but she doesn't think that's not the reason why people are going. She said they prefer at this point to just be in their homes. In Beirut, 24-year-old Julian is traveling around taking photographs. The latest ones that he's posted online, he says, are in a predominantly Christian neighborhood, a residential area, where he said drilling trucks were mistaken for rocket launchers and allegedly hit by Israeli missiles. Again, Julian, a 24-year-old, posting online. Go to CNN.com/situation report. We are linking to all of these for you. Also, we just want to make note that we can't always authenticate the videos that we show you that are posted online. It's tough to do that. Also, that people who put personal things online are giving you a very personal point of view. Keep that in mind. Wolf.
Jackie, thank you very much. And to our viewers, you're in the Situation Room, where new pictures and information are arriving all the time. Standing by CNN reporters across the United States and around the world to bring you today's top stories. Happening now, 8 days of warfare with no clear end in sight. In the Middle East, the fierce fighting continues with neither side blinking or backing down. Hezbollah rockets are raining death on northern Israel, and Israel steps up its aerial assaults and ground combat inside Lebanon. Caught in the crossfire, Americans in Lebanon. Thousands are fleeing for safety, yet thousands of others that are packed and ready to go must also pack along some patience. And undaunted by the death and the devastation, with parts of Israel under fire, some American Jews decide to keep their long-made plans. Right now, they're moving to Israel, some intent on going directly where the rockets are falling. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room. Lebanese Prime Minister said Lebanon will survive the conflict and that the Lebanese people, quote, refuse to die, yet the death toll grows in Lebanon. Today, Israel's military continued pounding Lebanon with aerial assaults and entered a new ground battle against Hezbollah. The Lebanese Prime Minister Fouad Siniora says over 300 Lebanese have died since the conflict began. Lebanon's official count so far, 216 civilians dead, 524 hurt. Meanwhile, Israeli police say 2 children were killed when a Hezbollah rocket hit the northern town of Nazareth earlier today. That's in the Galilee. At least 29 Israelis have been killed in a week of warfare. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice plans to meet tomorrow night in New York with the UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. Friday, she'll get a first-hand report from a United Nations diplomatic team just back from the region. Israel, Cyprus, Beirut, and beyond. CNN reporters are posted throughout the Middle East watching all of these unfolding developments. Our Ben Wiedemann is standing by in the Lebanese capital of Beirut. Chris Burns is in Cyprus for us, but let's begin our coverage this hour with our chief international correspondent, Christiane Amanpour. She's reporting from northern Israel, not far from the Lebanese border. Christiane?
Well, Wolf, despite this Israeli push that's now been in its 8th day, these Hezbollah rockets keep coming. So they haven't been silenced yet. They still have their military capability. We were up in Avivim, which is a town almost right on the border there, and that's where they've had the fiercest clashes to date, pretty much facing off Israelis and Hezbollah on the Lebanese side of the border. As the IDF, the Israeli military, tells us, Israelis were trying to go over and take out some of the Hezbollah positions, and it turned into a long, protracted clash between the two sides. We witnessed on the Israeli side tanks firing over and over again, and that being bringing on a barrage of mortar and rocket fire from the Hezbollah side. Now, we're told that 2 Israeli soldiers were killed and about 9 were injured, and we certainly saw the injured being loaded onto ambulances and taken away. And we also saw quite a big area up there being peppered with rocket fire and rocket impacts. There was huge amounts of smoke billowing from various hillside towns and villages. On the Israeli side, there were flames. And we know that in the town of Nazareth, there was a rocket attack, which we're told killed 2 children. And also in Haifa, there were more attacks, but no casualties there. Here, this little town of Metula, where we are right now, again, almost right on the border with Lebanon, there was a few hours ago a fierce firefight involving Israeli tank and heavy artillery forces trying to push back what they said was a potential incursion by Hezbollah militants. We don't know whether they did actually infiltrate, but there was a fear at one point from the Israelis that they did, and there was certainly a lot of troops deployed to the border area, also helicopters overhead to the fence area to try to deal with that, but certainly a huge amount of outgoing artillery fire from here for several hours. Wolf?
In the last hour, Christian, we heard from the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Dan Gillerman, saying that this Israeli military operation is going to take as long as necessary to effectively, he said, destroy Hezbollah's military capability to disarm and to disband this militia. He says if that's the Israeli military goal, it's going to take a lot longer than a week or two.
Well, that is the goal, basically. Who knows, frankly, how long it'll take. The IDF today basically saying that about 50% of the capability has already been taken out. But it's hard for us. We have no idea. We don't know how to determine that. We certainly saw a great deal of capability from the Hezbollah side today. There was a huge amount of incoming, big barrage, one of the biggest in these last 8 days. But, you know, they also want to create a buffer zone. We talked to the leader of the Israeli battlefront up here, the general who's in charge of the battle operations on the northern front, and they are trying to push back. They say there will be a buffer zone one way or another, and they're trying to go in, as we've been talking about. The small units have gone in and out for the last several days with tanks, with bulldozers, trying to take out Hezbollah outposts and bunkers and trying to eliminate their capability to be in place right on the border and to be able to continue these attacks.
Christian, thank you very much. We're going to check back with you throughout the evening here on CNN. Let's go to Beirut and find out what's going on in Lebanon. Ben Wiedemann is on the scene for us. Ben, we heard an emotional address from the Lebanese Prime Minister Fouad Siniora. He says the Israelis may have some military objectives, but in the process, he says they're destroying Lebanon. What's the latest from Beirut?
Yes, Wolf, well, this has been probably the bloodiest day of Israel's 8-day offensive in Lebanon. We've seen intense airstrikes focusing mainly on the southern part of the country. Also, though, those airstrikes reaching as far as Beirut this afternoon, where there's a huge explosion when a warehouse near the airport was hit. And later in the evening, there was a series of massive explosions shaking the Lebanese capital. Those rockets, presumed rockets or bombs, hit the southern suburbs where Hezbollah is headquartered. That area is by and large completely abandoned by its ordinary residents. There are very few people there, some people going in and out just to get their belongings. But I was there this evening driving around with a taxi driver and a camera, and we were stopped by some Hezbollah gunmen who told us to turn off the car's lights, leave the area immediately. Another group stopped us, took away my driver's cell phone, asked us lots of questions. They're very suspicious, very nervous in that area that these Israeli airstrikes are going to intensify as soon as this operation to evacuate foreign nationals comes to an end. Wolf?
Ben, you're fluent in Arabic, and I know you've been speaking with a lot of Lebanese. Lebanon is a very divided country. There are Lebanese Maronite Christians, there are the Muslims, the Shia Muslims, the Sunni Muslims, there are the Druze. Give us a little flavor of the reaction. Are there different reactions to what the Israelis are doing based on the ethnicity of the various groups within Lebanon?
Well, really, it depends, of course, who you talk to here, but certainly all the Shiites I've spoken to are intensely angry about what's going on, enraged by the level of civilian casualties that has been inflicted upon Lebanon. That's how they see it. But if you go north of here, the view of things is completely different. People see Lebanon being destroyed slowly, the infrastructure, the bridges, the port, the airport being hit, and they're bitter about that. But they're also bitter about the fact that Hezbollah went and captured these 2 Israeli soldiers, ignited this crisis, which has really taken a country that really seemed to be coming back, standing on its feet, prospering, becoming a tourist center in the Middle East to what it is now, where there are no tourists, everybody's leaving, and everybody is worried about the future of this country.
A heartbreaking story for the people of Lebanon. Thanks very much, Ben Wiedemann, for that. We're going to come back to you as developments unfold as well. Right now, thousands of Americans are leaving Lebanon, trying to get out as quickly as they possibly can. Others are being told they're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Chris Burns is in Larnaca, Cyprus, where the ships are arriving, ships carrying a lot of evacuees. What's the latest from Larnaca, Chris?
Wolf, we're expecting a rather spectacular evening here. Over my shoulder, the first of what's believed to be 8 ships arriving overnight, with some 7,000 or more evacuees of all different kinds of countries. Over my shoulder is a French destroyer that's arrived just over the past hour with some 500 people. They're being boarded on buses over there, brought over here to a processing center, put through customs, and hopefully directly on planes to send them back to France and the other respective countries. This is going to go throughout the night. We're also expecting the first major U.S. sea lift from Beirut. It is a U.S. commissioned passenger ship that is carrying some 800 people, escorted by the U.S. destroyer USS Gonzales out of security reasons, and that is what the Pentagon is saying has taken so long to put this to get this thing going, to get this evacuation going. A lot of Americans in Beirut are angry that it's taken so long. They're saying it takes the security, extra security, to make sure that these evacuations go on without any hitch. Now, there are other countries involved tonight, along with France and the United States. There are the Swedes, the Danes, the Canadians. In fact, the Canadian Prime Minister is here in town to see hundreds of his countrymen being taken back. So what we're seeing is an increasingly large flow of expatriates as we see the escalation going on in Lebanon. A lot of people losing hope. We talked to some American university students in Beirut who just got out this morning on a Norwegian ship. They said that it was hard to sleep with the explosions going on. They couldn't sleep in their dormitories, and they were given 10 minutes to pack their bags, so they couldn't take everything with them. So a very frantic scene for a lot of people over there.
Chris Burns is going to be on the scene for us throughout the night in Larnaca, talking with Americans as they get off these ships. Chris, stand by for that. We're going to continue to watch the story in the Situation Room. And we're learning of another phase, potentially a very dangerous phase in this rescue operation. Let's go to our senior Pentagon correspondent, Jamie McIntyre. Jamie, explain to our viewers what you've learned.
Well, Wolf, now that the evacuation of Americans from the capital of Lebanon, Beirut, is well underway, U.S. military planners are focusing on the plight of Americans stranded in more remote regions of the country, and that could potentially mean a dangerous mission for U.S. Marines who are on ships heading to the coast now. A senior defense official tells CNN that the U.S. is considering sending those Marines on helicopters to extract Americans from remote areas if they have no other way to get to safety. A senior defense official also said that there have been no decisions made on this mission at the moment. It's just one of the options under consideration. But in an interview earlier today on CNN, Rear Admiral Patrick Walsh, the commander of the evacuation operation, told CNN's Kira Phillips that one of the reasons he moved the Marines and their ships to that location was to have the ability to extract Americans no matter what their location, and he promised, quote, that everything would be done to get Americans to safety. Wolf?
Very quickly, Jamie, I take it there's been good coordination in these rescue operations with the Israelis, the U.S. and the Israeli military working closely together, but there's no cooperation with Hezbollah. That raises the stakes for these kinds of rescue operations deep in the southern part of Lebanon.
Well, and there has been cooperation and consultation with the Lebanese government as well, but you point out that this would mean that U.S. military helicopters would have to fly over an area of Lebanon that is controlled by Hezbollah, which is identified by the U.S. government as a terrorist group.
All right, we're going to bring you back, Jamie. Stand by. We're going to get some more on this story. Jamie McIntyre reporting that very, very potentially dangerous development. Let's check in with Jack once again. He's in New York. Jack?
It's good stuff. Another voice from the region weighing in on the Middle East conflict, this one from Iraq. Iraq's prime minister is denouncing Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon, calling them, quote, operations of mass destruction of the infrastructure and in no way justified. That's a quote. Nouri al-Maliki says Iraq is asking the international community to take a quick stance and stop the aggression against Lebanon and the killing of innocent people. The United States' support for Israel is not likely to please our friends in Iraq. Meanwhile, things are not looking any better there either. Iraq, that is. The foreign minister says the Iraqi government has only months now to curb the sectarian violence that's threatening a full-blown civil war. Some people say that's already started. The UN reported yesterday 14,000 civilians have been killed in Iraq during the first 6 months of this year, nearly 6,000 of them in just the last 2 months. So here's the question. How will this latest conflict in the Middle East affect U.S. operations in Iraq? Your thoughts, Cafferty File at CNN.com or go to CNN.com/Cafferty File.
Good question, Jack. Thanks very much. No simple answers, but a good question. Up ahead, our Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr on board the USS Nashville. That's a ship heading toward the Lebanese coast right now. Barbara's going to update us on military evacuation efforts. Also, should a multinational peacekeeping force be sent to the region? I'll ask our world affairs analyst, the former Defense Secretary, William Cohen. And U.S. law enforcement warning about Hezbollah activity right here in the United States. We're going to show you why the FBI is so concerned right now. Stay with us. You're in the Situation Room.
The Audi Q7, the SUV from the creator of Quattro.
So I was on my cell phone with Leah, who used to date Justin, who I saw in the library studying the anatomy of a certain friend of ours. I'm about to drop a name, and my network... No more! I've switched to Singular's all-over network, the network with the fewest dropped calls. Testing from the leading independent research company proves it. And that's not gossip, it's fact.
So, switch to the network with the fewest dropped calls. Singular, raising the bar.
My name is Andrea Heisler, and this is my story. I facilitate communication between two people who can't normally communicate. I started having joint pain in my wrist. I would avoid certain signs, like last night would hurt my wrist. I took some Aleve. I could actually move my wrist. The one cool thing about my job is everyone's always happy to see me. Aleve worked great.
Looking for the perfect computer for back to school? Circuit City makes it simple.
I guess you're just what I need.
Right now at Circuit City, bring in any PC and get a free checkup, a $40 value. And save up to $320 on select desktops and notebooks after mail-in and instant savings. Like this HP Pavilion desktop PC featuring Intel Vive technology for just $739.99 after rebates. Circuit City.
Tonight on 360, evacuation's growing. No end to the fighting. Where do we go from here? Is a ground war next? From Beirut, Gaza, Jerusalem, and all around the region, all the angles, lives in the balance. 360 from the Middle East, tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern.
The Middle East erupts, and CNN is right there, on the ground with the story firsthand.
We've heard several loud explosions, now a dull, a thud. See what happened.
Essential reporting from CNN, the most trusted name in news.
We're following all the newest developments in the Middle East crisis, among them new clashes between Israeli forces and Hezbollah militants in southern Lebanon unfolding right now. The Israeli foreign minister says the country's offensive is paving the way for what she calls diplomacy. The Lebanese prime minister estimates 500,000 people in his country are now displaced by the Israeli campaign. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice is to meet tomorrow in New York with the United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan and the European Union Foreign Affairs Chief to discuss the crisis. Meanwhile, Lebanon is reporting 216 people killed in the fighting so far, with 524 wounded, although the country's prime minister earlier today put the number of dead Lebanese at more than 300. Israel is reporting 29 people killed, more than 300 wounded. In our security watch, U.S. law enforcement agencies are right now being warned to keep an eye on people in this country with ties to Hezbollah. Our justice correspondent Kelly Arena is picking up this part of the story. Kelly?
Wolf, you know, before September 11th, Hezbollah was responsible for more American deaths than any other terrorist group. The last significant attack that Hezbollah played a role in was the 1996 bombing of the Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia, in which 19 Americans were killed. Hezbollah has never attacked on U.S. soil. But U.S. officials say if the situation in the Middle East escalates further, that could change.
We are taking precautions here in the United States, and to the extent that we have identified individuals associated with Hezbollah, that we are taking additional precautions to assure that we do not face a threat from these individuals.
Counterterrorism officials stress there is no new intelligence suggesting that Hezbollah is planning an attack against the U.S. or U.S. interests. But in an advisory sent to law enforcement partners late last week, the FBI and Department of Homeland Security warned that it is possible individuals residing in the U.S. who sympathize with Hezbollah could act. Bob Grenier is a former CIA counterterrorism official.
I think it is almost an actuarial certainty that if we were to get into a direct confrontation with Hezbollah, that there would be those who would be fighting on behalf of Hezbollah in the United States.
Law enforcement sources say there are active cells in the U.S. allegedly involved in everything from gathering intelligence to raising funds to smuggling arms and military equipment to Hezbollah fighters. Currently, U.S. officials say there are investigations underway in at least 24 U.S. cities, including Detroit and Los Angeles. Those investigations are mostly focused on people allegedly providing financial support to the organization.
There certainly has been a pattern of individuals in the past who have had financial and other links with Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Officials say much of Hezbollah's activity in the U.S. involves traditional criminal enterprises. Most experts do not believe that the current situation has escalated enough to prompt Hezbollah to directly act against the United States. But the problem is, it's not clear what the trigger will be, Wolf.
Kelly Arena, thanks very much. Strong reporting by Kelly. Stay tuned to CNN day and night for the most reliable news about your security. Coming up, the USS Nashville heading to Lebanon right now. Our Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr is on board with details of how the ship will help evacuate potentially thousands of Americans. Plus, military officials are very concerned about possible attacks on ships in the region. We're going to show you some of the tools they're using to protect U.S. warships. Stay with us.
The judge turned her away, then her fears came true. Her husband burned her alive. She lived. Now she wants justice.
Nancy Grace, Headline Prime.
At the door, there's a man who will greet you.
The food is all that you've been dreaming of. The games are hot and they're right for the winning.
I think that I'm in love.
I know a place where you'll find some friends and some dough. I know a place where we can go.
For $100,000, your cash rhyme. I'm a sci-fi comedy, and I rhyme with snack to the future. Begin.
Snack to the future.
Quack to the future.
Grack to the future.
Don't be a culture fool. Catch up with over 100 free movies on demand with Comcast Digital Cable. It's Comcastic.
Let's get to the truth. It's time for answers.
Lou Dobbs tonight, CNN 6 Eastern.
Office Depot, a leader in mobile technology, can build a notebook computer to the most important specs of all, yours. Office Depot will customize a notebook to help you go wireless wherever your work life takes you. Now build an HP Pavilion with Intel Centrino mobile technology and an all-in-one printer starting at $499.99 after mail-in and instant savings.
Taking care of business.
I'm Pete. I've had nice bosses, mean bosses, short bosses, tall bosses, she bosses, he bosses, they bosses, serious bosses, nervous bosses, and one kind of funny boss. Now I'm the boss, and my plan is to keep the boss happy.
You do what you love. We'll help you keep your investments on track. Fidelity Retirement Income Advantage. Call 1-800-FIDELITY. Smart move.
Imagine how much energy it takes to fuel an entire city of 1 million households, day and night, for 6 years. That's how much energy Kerr-McGee will recover from just one deep water field with just one production spar that produces offshore oil and gas where we couldn't before. Nobody delivers America's energy to Americans like the deep water explorers of Kerr-McGee.
One American military vessel, the USS Nashville, is due to dock in Beirut in the hours ahead. Its mission, get more Americans out. Our Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr is on board the ship with more. Barbara?
Wolf, the Marines on board this ship are awaiting their final orders to sail to Beirut. There are about 400 Marines on board the USS Nashville, along with the Navy crew. This will be an extraordinarily emotional mission for both the Navy and the Marine Corps, because there are some fairly remarkable historic coincidences emerging here. 24 years ago, the USS Nashville was in Beirut helping evacuate Americans from the civil war that raged there at the time. And it was 23 years ago, of course, 241 Marines lost their lives at Beirut International Airport in that bombing attack. But some of the Marines on board the Nashville now, they are from the same unit as those Marines that lost their lives so many years ago. So the final security measures now are being worked out. When they get the order to sail, we are told there will be very significant security measures in place. We are being asked not to discuss them at this point, but the Navy and the Marine Corps want to make sure when they get to Beirut and they pick up possibly hundreds of Americans, it will be a very safe, secure mission. Here on Cyprus, the emerging story, however, is as hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans and other Westerners arrive on Cyprus, will they be able to make their way quickly back to their homes? It's not clear at this point, because as the evacuation goes on, so many people are arriving here, it's not clear they can be quickly moved to civilian air flights to their final destinations. We are told that arrangements are being made for people to have space in schools, in auditoriums, in fairgrounds. So if they have to spend time here on Cyprus, they will have somewhere to be, because the hotels are becoming very full, as you can understand. Both the State Department and the military says they do not want to get into the business of having to run any tent cities here on Cyprus. So they are going to keep working at trying to get people moving onto those civilian air flights and back to their homes as quickly as possible.
Wolf. Barbara Starr reporting from the USS Nashville on board that ship in the Mediterranean on its way to Beirut to help evacuate Americans. As the evacuation efforts pick up, there's growing concern about the safety of U.S. military ships in the region. Let's bring back our senior Pentagon correspondent, Jamie McIntyre. Jamie?
Well, Wolf, when that U.S. warship, the Nashville, goes into Beirut with our Barbara Starr on board, she tells us that U.S. commanders say they're not taking any chances.
The amphibious transport ship USS Nashville will be the first American warship to pick up U.S. civilians from Beirut. While it's on a mission of mercy, that doesn't mean it couldn't also become a terrorist target.
I'm concerned about attacks on ships, you bet.
For now, the sea lanes between Lebanon and Cyprus are considered a, quote, permissive environment, both for commercial vessels and military ships ferrying foreign nationals to safety. Still, commanders on board the USS Nashville tell CNN they're operating under tight security.
We'll make sure our security is adequate for any mission we may be assigned, and appropriate for the type of mission, which is to safeguard Americans.
The stakes were raised when an Iranian-made C-802 anti-ship missile hit an Israeli warship Friday, revealing a capability few suspected Hezbollah possess, the means to strike a ship as far as 10 miles from shore. U.S. warships, including the Nashville, are equipped with the Navy's Phalanx system. The defense against anti-ship missiles features a sensitive tracking radar that looks like R2-D2 on steroids, coupled with 6 20-millimeter Gatling guns that fire more than 4,000 rounds a minute, knocking down incoming missiles with a wall of metal. It's good against high-tech missiles, but the threat is from low-tech rockets as well.
American military planners are going to have to think very carefully about making sure that Hezbollah or Iran doesn't fire anti-shipping cruise missiles or artillery rockets at some of the evacuation points, at the evacuation ships or some of our warships.
As an extra precaution, Pentagon sources indicate that the Nashville will likely remain several miles offshore and use its landing craft and helicopters to ferry Americans from Beirut to the ship. Wolf?
Jamie McIntyre at the Pentagon. Thanks, Jamie. And we're just getting this in from Jerusalem. The Israeli military now confirming to CNN that Israeli airstrikes right now have targeted and actually hit what they describe as a bunker which they suspect includes some high-ranking members of Hezbollah. The story just coming in to CNN, clearly going after the Hezbollah leadership. The Israeli military confirming to CNN that high-ranking officials of Hezbollah have been targeted in a bunker in an Israeli airstrike that's unfolding right now. We're going to get some more information. Go to Jerusalem. Be precise on this story. In the meantime, let's bring in our world affairs analyst, the former Defense Secretary William Cohen. He's a key member of CNN's Security Council and now the head of the Cohen Group here in Washington. They're not mincing any words, the Israelis. They're saying they're going to try to kill or decapitate the leadership of Hezbollah.
Well, I think they can be successful in degrading the capability of Hezbollah, but the membership is much larger than perhaps even they suspect at this point, and it's a situation in which Hezbollah has this kind of heads I win, tails you lose. Every time you launch another missile or attack, you kill innocent Lebanese children, men and women. We get more radicals, or Palestinians and others and Arabs who become radicalized. So it's one of those games that Hezbollah is playing, a very dangerous game. Ultimately, this is going to be resolved through diplomacy, and by that I mean when Secretary Rice goes to the UN, she has to insist upon 2 or 3 things in my mind. Number one, go to the source. The source is Syria and Iran. Much more so than Lebanon, right? You go to the UN and you say to the Syrians, you will have to abide by Resolution 1559, or else there will be sanctions imposed upon you. We go to the same with respect to Iran and say to the Iranians, you thought you were going to disrupt the proceedings as far as consideration of your nuclear program. We are now going to reconvene, and we are going to insist that you either comply with it or we are going to impose sanctions upon Iran. And then the third component would have to be, namely, to insist upon a cessation of the expansion of settlements in the West Bank. Going back to the root cause, as President Bush has talked about the root cause, it's Hamas, Hezbollah. Also, a root cause has to be with to do with the settlements continuing to expand in the West Bank. That has to be addressed through once again, going back to the president's own roadmap. We can't get to the roadmap until you deal with Syria and Iran directly.
One of the elements of any agreement presumably will be some sort of international stabilization force in the southern part of Lebanon. Over the past 24 hours, I've heard some influential voices here in Washington throw out this idea of sending NATO troops in. If NATO can go to Afghanistan, why can't they go into Lebanon and get the job done more robustly, more effectively than UNIFIL, this UN peacekeeping force that's been there since 1978?
Well, the situation in Afghanistan is quite a bit different than what's taking place today in Lebanon, between Lebanon and the Israelis. We have a coalition force, our component, 137,000 American troops, plus other nations who are currently in Iraq. We have not suppressed the insurgency there. The notion that you would put a force in place that you, number one, have to determine what are the ground rules, what are the rules of engagement, are they heavily armed, how do they respond if attacked, how far can they go, etc. But more importantly, until you have an agreement by the Syrians and the Iranians about what they're prepared to do, to put a force in there at this point without very serious consideration of the consequences of that, I think would be a mistake. First, go to the UN, insist that they insist upon compliance with their own resolutions. A failure to do that will see a continuation of the kind of conflict we're seeing with greater and greater bloodshed.
Very quickly, how worried are you about the safety of U.S. Marines if they go into South Lebanon right now to try to rescue Americans stranded there?
Well, obviously, after the Israeli ship was attacked with a variation of the Chinese silkworm missile, they have to be concerned about anything coming close to them. But I think there would be a big mistake for Hezbollah, for Syria, to support this Iran. It would be met with a very strong response, a military response, which I don't think if they want to see at this particular point. So they have to be careful. They've got the equipment. They'll be on guard, learning from the Israeli experience, not understanding that they had possession of these types of weapons. But I think that they will be reasonably secure in their defensive capabilities.
The former Secretary of Defense, William Cohen, thanks very much for coming in. Coming up, death and devastation are not necessarily deterrents. Some American Jews right now getting ready to move to Israel permanently despite the conflict. Some even plan to move to the very places where rockets right now are falling. And the unfolding crisis through the eyes of those affected. We're going to show you some of the moving images and personal stories posted online. We'll be right back.
Your risks can change quickly. Make sure your insurance stays in sync. Travelers.
In Thailand, the Thai people celebrate His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej's 60th anniversary ascension to the throne. He is currently the longest reigning monarch in the world. His Majesty was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where his father, Prince Mahidol, attended Harvard University. A great patron of the arts, he is also an accomplished jazz musician and has played with many world-renowned names such as Benny Goodman, Jack Teagarden, and Lionel Hampton. Applying his diverse background and experience from both East and West to developing his country, His Majesty has improved the social and economic conditions of his people. Thailand's current prosperity is proof of this innovative approach. On this joyous occasion of His Majesty's 60th anniversary ascension to the throne, royalty from around the world will descend on Thailand for the celebration. We welcome you to join us for this momentous event.
We're following the breaking news coming out of Jerusalem. The Israeli military confirming that Israeli warplanes have dropped what they say are 23 tons of bombs on a South Beirut bunker. What they say it's been used by top officials of Hezbollah. This coming in from the Israeli military. No immediate word on casualties from the strike. We're watching this story. We're going to get more to you, bring much more on this development as soon as we get it. In the meantime, let's get some other news, important news. Frederica Whitfield joining us once again from the CNN Center. Hi, Fred.
Hello to you. Well, good news to consumers. Oil prices have dropped for the third day in a row. U.S. light crude slid to just over $72 a barrel today after Energy Department officials reported that supplies were up. They say supplies of gasoline are up by 1.5 million barrels, while supplies of the materials used to make diesel fuel and heating oil have also increased. President Bush says no to expanded use of human embryos for stem cell research. The president issued his first veto since taking office to block a bill passed yesterday by the Senate. The measure, which passed last year in the House, would allow couples who have had embryos frozen for fertility treatments to donate them to researchers rather than let them be destroyed. Republican congressional leaders say it's unlikely that Congress will be able to override the veto. West Virginia officials say a series of structural and human failures contributed to the deaths of 12 West Virginia coal miners last January. 27-year-old Randall McCloy was the only survivor of the accident. He was severely injured by the deadly gases that spread through the mine. McCloy also says that some of the miners' air packs did not work. And it's a familiar drill for coastal residents. They're preparing for the arrival of the second named storm of the hurricane season, Tropical Storm Beryl. Formed yesterday afternoon off the North Carolina coast. That region may be off the hook, however, but the National Hurricane Center has issued a storm watch for southeastern Massachusetts, heading north. Well,
all right, Fred, thank you very much. Let's check in with Lou Dobbs. He's getting ready for his program that begins right at the top of the hour. Lou, tell our viewers what you're working on.
Well, thank you. Coming up at the top of the hour here on CNN, we'll have the very latest on the escalating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. Israeli soldiers tonight are inside Lebanon fighting one of the biggest ground battles of the war so far. We'll have a live report for you from the Israel-Lebanon border. We'll also be live with our reporters in Beirut. The United States has begun the first large-scale evacuation of American citizens from Beirut. U.S. Marines could be flying deep into Lebanon to rescue Americans trapped there. We'll be going live to Larnaca, Cyprus, and the Pentagon. We'll also be reporting on a major new threat to our national security. Has Congress learned nothing from the debacle over the Dubai ports deal? We'll have that special report on a new deal that would give foreign governments and companies the right to own and operate our ports. We'll also have the latest for you on a new front in the fight against illegal immigration. We hope you'll join us at the top of the hour. Wolf, back to you.
Thanks very much for that, Lou. We'll be watching. Still to come, the latest developments from the Middle East, including an immigration underway right now to Israel. In ordinary times, hundreds of American Jews moving to Israel, not necessarily unheard of. But these are by no means ordinary times. Mary Snow is on the story for us. And Jack Cafferty is wondering about this phrase, operations of mass destruction. It may sound like something in Iraq, but it's actually what Iraq's leader says Israel is mounting in Lebanon. How might the Mideast conflict affect American operations in Iraq? Jack has your email. That's coming up.
At 6'4", 220 pounds, Bob's a formidable man. But he was no match for something less than 1/1,000,000th his size. It KO'd Bob so fast, he didn't know what hit him. It was a clot. Like Bob, if you've been hospitalized with heart-related chest pain or a certain type of heart attack, what doctors call ACS, chances are you've had a clot. But now, Bob's doctor is helping increase Bob's protection against heart attack and stroke by putting Bob on Plavix. Plavix, in combination with aspirin and other heart medicines, helps provide greater protection against heart attack and stroke than aspirin and other heart medicines alone by helping keep blood platelets from sticking together and forming clots.
If you have a stomach ulcer or other condition that causes bleeding, you shouldn't use Plavix. When taking Plavix alone or with some medicines, including aspirin, the risk of bleeding may increase. To minimize this risk, talk to your doctor before taking aspirin or other medicines with Plavix. Additional rare but serious side effects could occur.
Ask your doctor about Plavix today, because no matter how formidable you are, you're no match for a dangerous clot. If you take Plavix with aspirin, continuing to do so will help increase your protection against a future heart attack or stroke, beyond aspirin and your other heart medicines alone. You may be feeling better, but your risk never goes away. Help stay protected. Stay with Plavix.
To increase skin's radiance, dermatologists recognize Aveeno Positively Radiant Moisturizers. The soy complex is clinically proven to improve the key elements of radiance, including fine lines, sunspots, and blotchiness.
Can your moisturizer do that?
Aveeno Positively Radiant.
Closed captioning provided by Head On. Head On applied directly to the forehead.
Head On, applied directly to the forehead. Head On, applied directly to the forehead. Head On, applied directly to the forehead. Head On is available without a prescription at retailers nationwide.
We're going to go to Beirut momentarily. Nick Robertson is on the scene. The Israeli military confirming it's dropped what they say 23 tons of bombs on a South Beirut bunker that they say includes senior Hezbollah leaders. We'll go to Beirut, get the latest on that front. The Middle East is on alert as Israeli and Hezbollah fighters engage in open warfare. At this time, while thousands are trying to flee the region, some people are actually moving there right now. CNN's Mary Snow is joining us from New York's John F. Kennedy Airport with the story. What's going on, Mary?
Well, within the past couple of hours, dozens of American families left to move to Israel. Now, this was a move that had been planned for quite some time. About 20 people in the group did postpone the trip, but most said they would not let the fighting deter their plans. There were last-minute phone calls, tears, and embraces as more than 200 Americans said goodbye to their home in the United States, heading for a new life in Israel. But the move was not without worries, as Hezbollah rockets struck Nazareth and thousands continued fleeing the Middle East. For Yehuda Sar, a father of 3, the fighting only strengthened his resolve to pick up his family and leave New Jersey.
Without shooting one bullet, without holding a gun, we're Israel's best weapon against anyone, any detractor, anyone who wants to destroy Israel.
Sar says his family is proof that Israel shouldn't back down. Many share that determination, but it comes with a price.
Our boys are coming to the age that they would have to go into the Army soon in the next few years, mandatory Army service, and that's always a concern.
The Kleins and their 4 sons are moving to a settlement in the north near the Lebanese border. They say they won't be in harm's way. But 22-year-old Steve Rubin one day could be. He plans to join the Israeli army.
It only makes me want to go there more, and it validates everything I've been thinking, for the existence of the state of Israel, to see how important everything is at this point.
A family's pride turned to tears when it was time to say goodbye. While families had a hard time letting go, Israel is eager to welcome its new citizens.
For us, for Israel, it's a huge boost to our morale, feeling that fellow Jews around the world are not deterred.
Now, as it stands now, the group will arrive in Israel on Thursday morning, and Israel's prime minister is scheduled to greet them when they get to the airport. Wolf?
All right, Mary, thanks very much. Mary reporting from JFK. Let's check in once again with our internet reporter, Jackie Schechner. She has the latest on the Middle East crisis online. What are we seeing online now by way of internet images and video?
Wolf, it's as simple as a 17-year-old with a video camera. This is an Arab family living in Israel. He tells us via email now that the sounds of planes overhead and sirens are pretty much all of the time running around posting this video online. This is the kind of thing we're seeing more and more as people decide that the best way to pass the time is to document their experience and put it on the internet for people to see. Also, we have Bashir in Beirut, who says that the images that he's seeing now constantly are so devastating, he's in southern Beirut, that he decided to travel around and take some more beautiful photos of the Beirut that he loves to show the world that it is still very much a beautiful place and to have these memories for himself and to show others. Go to CNN.com/situation report. There's a lot of great links for you there of things that we found online we'd like to share with you. Also, Wolf, just want to reiterate again that it's tough to authenticate the video that people put online, and that if you're going to look at a personal viewpoint, it is going to be very personal. It'll often have a political slant to it. Wolf?
Jackie, thanks very much. I want to go right to Beirut. Nick Robertson is standing by. The Israeli military, Nick, confirming that they've dropped what they say 23 tons of bombs on a South Beirut bunker that they say has been used by senior members of Hezbollah. What are you picking up there?
Well, Wolf, 23 tons of explosives is a lot, and we've been listening over the past few nights to bombs going off that have been a lot smaller volume than that, bombs that are perhaps in the region of half a ton maximum, and we've been able to hear them pretty clearly from where we are in the center of Beirut, and we haven't heard any continual loud explosions that would indicate that a large amount of ordnance, bunker-busting type bombs was being dropped anywhere, at least within the audible range that we can hear. And we can hear bombs, and we have been able to hear bombs sort of reasonably well out to the southern suburbs. What might change that tonight is the wind blowing in the wrong direction, so we wouldn't hear the sound. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case. There's not a strong wind right now, so it's sort of surprising that we haven't heard these explosives going off. We have, however, tried to contact our usual Hezbollah contacts. They are not answering their phones. We cannot get through to them by phone. This does not indicate anything more, perhaps, than they have their phones switched off, which maybe they do in the evenings at night for security reasons or whatever. We don't know. But what we do know standing here right now, Wolf, is that we haven't heard any huge explosions that would seem to correlate with 23 tons of explosives on the southern outskirts, southern suburbs of Beirut. However, the bombs might have dropped further away. There may be other reasons why we haven't heard these explosives hitting the ground, Wolf, but we are continuing to try to get through to those Hezbollah representatives to find out from them what they can tell us, Wolf.
And Hezbollah television, has that been business as usual the past few hours? Because if the Israelis managed to knock out some of the leaders of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, for example, the overall leader of Hezbollah, presumably El Manar television, which is Hezbollah television, would not be a regular program.
Nothing has changed on that front as far as we can see, Wolf. The programming that they've been putting out today is the normal information that they feed out, and that has been typically a lot of rousing military-type videos, music, nationalist-type songs, also banners along the bottom. Earlier on today, for example, they were saying that they'd fired missiles 50 kilometers, about 30 miles into Israel, hitting a military airstrip. This did not prove to be the case. So from what we've seen of Al Manar, the television station, the reports for Hezbollah, we have not seen them particularly change their stance and go to some indication that perhaps something had happened to the leadership. But again, Wolf, information may travel slowly at this time of night. Typically, it is tough to verify things in the middle of the night here, and we will be following this, and we will be bringing you all the details. But at the moment, there's very little that we can say standing here in Beirut at the moment, Wolf.
Thank you very much, Nick Robertson, on the scene for us in Beirut. And this just coming into CNN, we've now learned that the Orient Queen, that huge ship bringing as many as 1,000 Americans to Larnaca in Cyprus, has arrived. Those people are about to start getting off that ship. We're going to go to Larnaca Live in a moment just to make sure that we bring that to you. Once again, the Orient Queen bringing perhaps 1,000 Americans or so to Cyprus from Lebanon. That ship has now arrived. The Arab-Israeli conflict may date back generations, but the current fighting may be giving us a glimpse of the future of warfare in the region. CNN's Brian Todd is joining us now with our Welcome to the Future report. Brian?
Wolf, that war of the future playing out right now, a mostly airborne, long-range conflict with airstrikes, rocket attacks, even unmanned aircraft hits. But experts say this kind of technological warfare may not be tipping the balance as much toward Israel as you might expect. Hezbollah's answer to Israel's overwhelming advantage in firepower? The Katyusha rocket. Crude, inaccurate, but sometimes effective. Older models with ranges of about a dozen miles can hit villages just across the border. But experts say Hezbollah's also fired rockets able to travel several dozen miles to the city of Haifa and beyond. And they say Hezbollah may have rockets that can fly up to 100 miles. A potential target, Tel Aviv. Other advantages? The shorter range Katyushas aren't in the air for more than a few seconds. They fly low to the ground. And
you can position it in order to be ready to be launched very easily. It's a challenge for us to intercept it.
To hit Katyushas, Israel cannot use its sophisticated Arrow 2 or Patriot defense systems made to blast long-range missiles out of the sky. The counter for Katyushas, experts say, is in the future.
I think that the hope is that eventually the United States and Israel are going to be able to develop battlefield laser systems that are going to be able to shoot these artillery rockets down.
Lasers that in recent tests have proven very effective in hitting Katyushas and other short-range rockets, even shoulder-fired missiles, in just seconds. Israel and the U.S. Army explored a laser program a few years ago, but the Army backed out because the units were expensive and immobile. Now, lighter, mobile, more efficient laser systems are being developed. Their only drawback?
The big challenge for these lasers is that the lower atmosphere is dirty. It's cloudy, foggy, dusty. The laser beam winds up heating up the dust rather than destroying the missile.
Still, experts say lasers are coming to the battlefield. Other technologies we'll see may look familiar, like a ground version of the Gatling gun, those multi-barrel rotating guns found on ships that can fire thousands of rounds per second. Very effective, experts say, at hitting short-range rockets and mortar shells. Wolf?
Brian Todd with our Welcome to the Future report. Good reporting. Thanks very much. And we're going to go to Larnaca, Cyprus after a short break. The Orient Queen, a huge ship carrying as many as 1,000 Americans, has now arrived in Cyprus. We'll go there for a live report right after this.
Welcome to the Future is sponsored by Johnson & Johnson. At Johnson & Johnson, we believe nursing is the essence of caring. Log on to cnn.com/future for more on the reality of what the future may hold.
At Johnson & Johnson, we understand the importance of a nurse's touch.
Checking the baby and listening to his heart and, thinking maybe you don't hear something quite right and alerting the doctor. I am one of the few people who knows what to do in that kind of situation.
A nurse's touch can touch the world.
I know I make a difference. It's my niche in life. It's where I belong.
Nurses, we need you more than ever. A message of caring from...
Can you tell the difference between these pet medications? They're exactly the same, but these medications cost a lot less. And they're delivered right to my door. That's the 1-800-PET-MEDS difference. Great savings, fast service, free shipping. Order now.
Back pain won't let me enjoy this.
The new Capsaicin patch. Relief beyond belief because it works fast, is long-lasting, and doctor recommended.
I can't believe how far I've come.
The Capsaicin patch. Relief beyond belief.
You didn't save hundreds of dollars by switching car insurance. Yep, I'm the guy. Must be, because every day they tell me about a bazillion people who switched on TV, radio, billboards. They show me entire stadiums worth of people who switched. But Progressive Direct shows you side-by-side comparisons of competitors' rates and services, so you can see if their services are worth the savings. Those gazillion people should call Progressive, because no one likes to be wrong. Think easier. Think Progressive.
Can you tell the difference between these pet medications? They're exactly the same, but these medications cost a lot less. I save the trip to the vet's office and call 1-800-PET-MEDS or order online, and my pet's medications are delivered right to my door. It's so easy. That's the 1-800-PET-MEDS difference. Great savings, fast service, free shipping.
1-800-PET-MEDS, America's largest pet pharmacy, saves you time and money on all your pet's medications.
Order online or call now.
All right, girls. Let's do this thing.
Ándale. Let's see what you got, rookie.
Who are you calling rookie?
You think they're competitive when they practice? You should see them play.
You got nothing.
Bring it on, Blondie. Last shot. Feeling the pressure, Natalie?
Nope. No pressure.
Safeway brings you the best in women's golf in the Safeway Classic, August 14th through 20th at the Columbia Edgewater Country Club. Safeway, ingredients for life.
Paul is on now. CNN tonight, 8 Eastern.
The Orient Queen, an 8-deck cruise liner, has just arrived in Larnaca, Cyprus, carrying perhaps 1,000 Americans. Chris Burns is on the scene for us. Only moments ago, it finally got there from Beirut, Chris.
That's right, Wolf. This is the first major movement of American citizens out of Beirut in the 8 days since that conflict began. They are now, let's push in on that ship right now to give you a closer look of it. It has made that 5 or 6 hour trip by boat across the Mediterranean from Lebanon over here. This is going to be a major processing center for this flotilla of ships arriving here. There was also a French destroyer that arrived in the last couple of hours, and just minutes after the Orient Queen arrived, there was also a Danish commissioned ferry that arrived as well, with some 900 other people, mainly Danish and European Union nationals. This over through the night, it's going to be a very busy night. There could be as many as 7,000 evacuees arriving on 8 ships tonight, and we'll be keeping you updated throughout the night, Wolf.
And we'll be joining you during our 7 p.m. Eastern hour, an hour from now. Perhaps we'll speak to some of those Americans getting off the Orient Queen. Chris Burns on the scene for us. Up next, Jack Cafferty asks, how will the latest conflict in the Middle East affect U.S. operations in Iraq? We'll be right back.
Where do most of America's homeowners keep most of their savings? In their home, their nest egg. And Freddie Mac helps make home ownership possible. Freddie Mac makes mortgage money available so lenders can make more home loans. We've helped over 44 million families own their own home. And since nearly 20% of America's economy is home and housing related, Freddie Mac also helps strengthen America's future. Freddie Mac, we make home possible. And it's working.
They can make you rich or poor. They're your customers. So in our business, we don't just create games. We create a bond and hope someone will treat us the same way.
Open arms. It's how Jen and Julie approach their customers. And while during peak season, we raise their credit line overnight. Open, how American Express serves small business.
My name is Ruben Martinez, and this is my story. I'm a hairstylist. I enjoy my clients very much. I say to them things like, you know what? I want to change your look. Since they trust me, they let me do whatever I want. I have arthritis in my fingers. This, after you do it 1,000 times, it hurts a lot. Thank God I found a leaf. It really helps. When I take a leaf, I become a lot more creative because I have no pains. I have clients for 20, 30 years, so I must be doing something right. I must be good.
Only moments ago, the Orient Queen, a huge ocean liner, arrived in Larnaca, Cyprus, carrying 1,000 Americans. Full coverage coming up. In the meantime, let's go to Jack Cafferty in New York. Jack?
All right, we heard from Iraq's prime minister today. He's denouncing the Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon, calling them, quote, operations of the destruction of the infrastructure. The question is, how will the latest conflict in the Middle East affect U.S. operations in Iraq? That war's ongoing, although you wouldn't know it by watching the mainstream media. It's not getting much attention these days because of the outbreak of violence in Lebanon and Gaza. Tom writes this conflict is taking the spotlight off Iraq as it falls into chaos. 14,000 dead civilians so far this year. We're in trouble. This is going to blow up into a regional war with the United States right in the middle. Get ready for the draft. Roy in Toronto writes, if the conflict gets worse and Israel doesn't achieve its goals of disarming Hezbollah, I'm afraid it'll be seen as a victory for terrorism and will encourage more attacks on the United States and the free world. Khalil writes from Atlanta, Lebanon's Shiite brethren in Iraq will eventually sympathize with Hezbollah, earning us the enmity of the people upon whom we rely to stabilize and bring calm to Iraq. Unless the Arab-Israeli conflict is solved, spreading democracy in the Middle East will only result in the rise of democratically elected leaders who are hell-bent on destroying the Jewish state. Glenn in Haymarket, Virginia, the Mideast conflict won't affect operations in Iraq at all. What it will affect is the amount of coverage it gets due to the attention span or lack thereof of the media. The events in Iraq can't compete with American civilians trying to get out of Lebanon. And Johnny in Florida writes, this Israeli-Hezbollah war is going to blow open Iraq's civil war even more. It'll have the same effect as the Santa Ana winds, helping a brush fire in the San Bernardino Valley in Southern California. If you didn't see your email here, you can go to cnn.com/Cafferty file, where you can read more of these online. Wolf?
Jack, thank you very much. See you back here in an hour in the Situation Room. We're in the Situation Room weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, back in 1 hour at 7 p.m. Eastern. Extensive coverage of the crisis in the Middle East. Until then, thanks very much for joining us. Lou Dobbs Tonight starts right now. Lou?
Thank you, Wolf. Tonight, Israeli troops are inside Lebanon, storming Hezbollah outpost and searching for Hezbollah rocket launchers. It's one of the biggest ground battles of this conflict so far. We'll be going live to the Israel-Lebanon border and to Beirut. And the first large-scale evacuation of American citizens from Beirut. A chartered cruise ship has just arrived in Cyprus. We'll have that report. U.S. Marines, they could be flying deep into Lebanon to rescue Americans trapped there. We'll be live in Cyprus and at the Pentagon.
This is Lou Dobbs Tonight. News, debate, and opinion for Wednesday, July 19th. Live in New York, Lou Dobbs.
Good evening, everybody. There is fierce fighting along the Israel-Lebanon border tonight. Israeli troops have advanced into southern Lebanon, raiding Hezbollah outpost. Israeli artillery and aircraft are also continuing their bombardment of key installations in other parts of Lebanon. Meanwhile, a chartered cruise ship carrying nearly 1,000 Americans from Beirut has just arrived in Cyprus. As many as 6,000 Americans could be rescued from Beirut by this weekend. The U.S. military considering sending our Marines across Hezbollah-controlled territory in southern Lebanon to rescue Americans trapped by the fighting. Christiana Amanpour tonight reports from the Israel-Lebanon border on the Israeli raid into Lebanon. Chris Burns reports from Larnaca, Cyprus on the arrival of the Orient Queen cruise liner carrying rescued Americans from Beirut. Nick Robertson tonight reports from Beirut, where Israeli aircraft have just bombed a bunker used by senior Hezbollah leaders. We turn first to Christiane Amanpour. Christiane?
Lou, despite the Israeli push, these Hezbollah rockets are still coming. Today was the fiercest onslaught in the 8-day engagement between Israel and the Hezbollah guerrillas. We have witnessed all throughout the day the fighting along the northern border. We have seen in the town of Avivim how the two sides have been pitted against each other and what the results are. And yet these rockets have still been continuing. The fiercest clashes yet between the Israeli army and Hezbollah guerrillas are here in Avivim, right on the Lebanese border. Israeli tanks pitted against Hezbollah mortars and rockets. Israel has taken casualties in this operation. 2 soldiers were killed and the injured were loaded into an ambulance and rushed to the nearest hospital. All the while, sirens wail, warning of the next rocket salvo. And it's not just humans, but hardware too. An Israeli tank is pulled limping off the battlefield. The Israeli military says this action is aimed at taking out Hezbollah posts along the border. Israel has sent in tanks to this battle, and we've been hearing the sound of outgoing tank fire. Meantime, around the hills in this region, peppered with smoke and flames, as Hezbollah rockets are still making their mark. 2 children were killed when rockets hit the town of Nazareth. They have also again struck Haifa, Tiberias, and all this part of northern Israel. Villages and hillsides are billowing with smoke. Buildings here in Dishan are aflame. Overhead comes a flying fire extinguisher, dropping red powder to dampen the blaze. It circles again and again over the village, over the slopes. Meantime, the air raid siren sounds again as the town of Avivim, scene of the worst fighting, finally gets a direct Hezbollah hit. So that was during the daylight hours. In the evening here in the town of Metula, which is also right on the Lebanon-Israeli border, there was another fierce onslaught and a huge amount of artillery fire being directed out of here by the Israeli forces against the hills of Lebanon and presumably the Hezbollah positions, although others have said also there were a lot of buildings and what looked like homes that were being hit as well. And this, we are told, was because they thought there might have been some incursion into this little village at the very part of the fence where the border is. We also heard machine gun fire as if the Israelis were trying to shoot at individuals rather than artillery at the positions. Right now, it's quiet and has been for the last several hours here, Lou.
Christian, thank you very much. Christian Amanpour reporting from the border of Israel and Lebanon. Hezbollah today launched new rocket attacks against towns and cities in northern Israel. One of the rockets killed 2 children in the town of Nazareth, as Christian has just reported. The children were playing outside when the rocket exploded. This is the first time there have been any Israeli casualties as far south as Nazareth. 29 Israelis have been killed in this war so far, 15 civilians of 14 troops. Casualties in Lebanon are also rising. The Lebanese prime minister today said more than 300 people have now been killed and 1,000 wounded since this war started 8 days ago. Tonight, Israel said its aircraft have bombed a bunker in South Beirut that has been used by Hezbollah leaders. Nick Robertson reports from Beirut on the Israeli air offensive against Lebanon. Nick?
Lou, we have heard those reports about the heavy bombing of a bunker. The Israeli Defense Forces saying they hit a bunker used by Hezbollah's leadership. We didn't hear the explosions here. We called, and we've normally been hearing a lot of explosions from those southern Beirut suburbs where they say the attack took place. We have now been in touch with Hezbollah officials. They say what was targeted in southern Beirut in this strike, according to Hezbollah officials, was a religious center that was under construction. They say only one floor of it had been built, that there was nobody there at the time, that there are no casualties involved there at all, and they say this is not in any way a center that's not in any way connected with Hezbollah or the Hezbollah leadership. There have been other strikes in the southern suburbs of Beirut today as well. A car parts distribution center damaged and destroyed. A truck car park, all the trucks in it damaged and destroyed. A food distribution center damaged and destroyed. Another strike on the airport today. But the picture for people in Beirut has been very much one of ongoing strikes in this city, Lou, today.
Nick, quickly, Hezbollah and Beirut, Lebanese officials, are they being candid and straightforward about the targets being hit by the Israeli strikes?
Lou, the only people we've talked about this so far are Hezbollah officials, and obviously they have a vested interest in providing information that they want to. We don't have any reason to doubt them, but we don't have any way of cross-checking their information at the moment. So we're taking their analysis that it was not one of their their leadership, that it was not a building in any way connected with them. And when you look at Al-Manar, the television station of Hezbollah, there's been no change in their programming there to indicate perhaps that the leadership had in fact been targeted. So at the moment, Lou, it does appear that it was a religious center, at least according to Hezbollah. Lou?
Nick, thank you very much. Nick Robertson reporting from Beirut. Israel tonight is stepping up its offensive against terrorists in Gaza, the second front of its escalating war against radical Islamists. Israeli troops last night advanced into Gaza, trying to stop Hamas rocket attacks against Israel and to search for a captured Israeli soldier. 9 Palestinians were killed in that attack. 3 of them were killed by missiles from unmanned aircraft. The Pentagon tonight is considering sending U.S. Marine Corps helicopters deep into Lebanon to try to rescue Americans trapped in this fighting. The helicopters would have to fly over territory controlled by Hezbollah if those rescue missions were to go ahead. Jamie McIntyre has the latest for us from the Pentagon. Jamie?
Well, Lou, a senior defense official tells CNN that consideration of using helicopters to rescue Americans would happen only if the Americans could not move overland to the seaport, which is the preferred option to get all the Americans out of Lebanon. It's one reason that 4 ships from the Iwo Jima Expeditionary Strike Group, along with 1,200 Marines, are being moved off the coast of Lebanon, according to a three-star admiral who's in charge of the operation. He told CNN that he wants to have the capability to extract people wherever they are, but the Pentagon insists at this point there's no plans to send the helicopters in. It would just be an option if they couldn't move them north, something the State Department says right now is not a safe option. Lou?
Jamie, thank you very much. Jamie McIntyre with that report from the Pentagon. The United States today began the first major evacuation of our citizens from Beirut. Nearly 1,000 Americans have just arrived in Cyprus on a chartered cruise liner. Chris Burns has the report from Larnaca, Cyprus. Chris?
Well, though, over my shoulder is the Orient Queen. We're going to pull in on it and take a look at it. That is a ship that is holding some 1,000 Americans and a few British nationals. Among those thousands of people who decided that this conflict is not showing any signs of abatement and they're voting with their feet, they're coming here. Some 7,000 people are expected to be coming aboard ships, not only from that one, but there was also a French destroyer that just arrived a couple hours ago with a few hundred people, a Danish ferry boat that just arrived a few minutes after the Orient Queen with some 900 Danish and European nationals. It's going to go on and on through the night. At least 8 ships arriving this evening with people being processed, and it is a regular process, people being sent over by bus over to this a processing building from which they hope that they will be placed on planes. But there are efforts right now also to nail down some hotel rooms. They might even have to warehouse some people in some large halls if they run out of space at hotels. So we're going to see an incredible wave of people, thousands moving through here in the next few days. Wolf.
Chris Burns from Larnaca, Cyprus. We thank you. The Navy has deployed 9 of its ships to the area. They'll be helping with this evacuation operation that is now well underway. The amphibious transport ship USS Nashville tonight left Cyprus and will join the rescue operation tomorrow. Also in the region, several other amphibious warfare ships led by the helicopter carrier USS Iwo Jima. 2 destroyers are now off the coast of Lebanon, the USS Gonzales and the USS Barry, protecting civilian and military evacuation ships. Israel's 3rd largest city tonight, again under siege. Residents of Haifa are in bomb shelters as Hezbollah bombards northern Israel. We'll have that special report for you from Haifa. Israeli troops tonight are fighting Hezbollah terrorists in one of the biggest ground battles of this conflict. We'll be going live to Christian Amanpour on the Israel-Lebanon border for the very latest. President Bush uses his veto for the first time of his presidency in the controversy over stem cell research. We'll have that special report and a great deal more coming right up.
There's a company that builds more than 1 million vehicles a year in places called Indiana and Kentucky. One that has 10 plants, from the foothills of West Virginia to the Pacific coastline. What company is this? Toyota. A company that, along with its dealers and suppliers, has helped create hundreds of thousands of U.S. jobs. A company proud to do its small part to add to the landscape of America.
I hope I said that right. I'm Matt Tucker. Welcome to America.
Oh, you're Chinese? That's cool.
I worked on it all morning.
Century 21.
Stanley Smith is a real Geico customer, not a paid celebrity. So to help tell his story, we hired a celebrity.
I love my car like my own wife.
He loved his car. Qué romántico.
When I wrecked it, I was devastated.
Oye, ¿por qué? Estaba loco. No sabía qué hacer. Desesperado. I gotta get going. Where I'm going. What am I gonna do? Help.
Geico repaired it within a few days, like new.
In a few days, reparado su carro. It was repaired. Mejor que nunca. Better than new. Estoy muy impresionada.
Geico. Real service, real savings.
I'm so happy porque tú nunca sabes cuándo me van a dar un...
Kerr-McGee delivers America's oil and gas where it wasn't possible or practical before. Like deep in the Gulf of Mexico, where Kerr-McGee platforms team with marine ecosystems. And in Utah's vast Uinta Basin, where production leaves wildlife undisturbed and blends into the landscape. From deep water to mountaintops, Kerr-McGee's delivering energy for Americans. Kerr-McGee. Explore more.
Tonight on 360, evacuations growing. No end to the fighting. Where do we go from here? Is a ground war next? From Beirut, Gaza, Jerusalem, and all around the region, all the angles, lives in the balance. 360 from the Middle East, tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern.
Haifa again tonight is under attack, a primary target of Hezbollah missiles. The Israeli city suffering death and destruction and bracing for more. We'll be going to Haifa for the very latest. But first, President Bush today vetoed the embryonic stem cell research bill passed by the Senate. It was the president and the House. It was the president's first use of his veto during his presidency. Dana Bash has the story from Capitol Hill.
His first veto was behind closed doors, no photographs, and later, no apologies.
If this bill were to become law, American taxpayers would, for the first time in our history, be compelled to fund the deliberate destruction of human embryos. And I'm not going to allow it.
Some self-described pro-life Republicans disagree with the president, saying embryonic stem cell research holds promise to save lives. Conservatives here applauded Mr. Bush for sticking with conviction.
It crosses a moral boundary that our decent society needs to respect, so I vetoed it.
Democrats see this as an election year miscalculation they can leverage in close congressional races.
His first veto will be a veto that will dash the hopes of tens of millions of Americans who suffer from diabetes and Parkinson's.
The stem cell debate is a major campaign issue in places like Missouri, where endangered Republican Senator Jim Talent was already being pounded by his challenger as out of the mainstream. He says he voted against the measure as a matter of principle. Concerned Republicans, led by Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, who faces perhaps the stiffest election challenge, had hoped to find political cover by sending the president a measure promoting alternatives to embryonic stem cell research.
We can be pro-science and do so in an ethical fashion.
But after it passed the Senate, it failed in the House, and Republican leaders there decided to drop it rather than risk another bruising debate. And the president vetoed that stem cell bill just a few hours ago, but already in a matter of minutes, the House will vote on whether or not to override it. That is expected to fail, meaning the veto will be sustained. Congress, Republicans in Congress and at the White House moved at rare warp speed on this legislation. They really want to get this behind them as soon as possible, at least here in Congress. But of course, this is going to be a big issue, already is, on the campaign trail. Lou.
Dana, thank you very much. Dana Bash reporting from Capitol Hill. Much more now on the escalating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. Hezbollah terrorists tonight are firing a barrage of rockets at cities and towns in northern Israel. More than 1 million Israelis are in bomb shelters, many of them in Haifa, Israel's third largest city. Paula Hancock in Haifa has this special report.
Arriving at Haifa's main hospital, the first thing we notice is beds lined up outside, ready for future casualties. We find Nico Shemovitz in the intensive care unit. He was in that train depot which was hit by a Hezbollah rocket on Sunday. He has burns over much of his body. 8 of his colleagues were killed. 3 days later, he is not well enough to be told yet. Leaving the hospital, another air raid siren, meaning incoming rockets. Moments later, injured soldiers from fighting on the border are flown into Haifa. One is wheeled into the hospital. We're told more are coming.
This is the most popular street in Haifa. There's around 50 restaurants on this street, but only one is open, and that one is not full. Now, usually, this is lunchtime. It's the middle of the summer. This would be filled with people eating. But at the moment, because the emergency order is still in place from the police, it's actually illegal for restaurants and shops to be open at all, and very few are.
But this one is. Abed Tamish has been sitting here for 5 hours with his friends. He smiles when the siren starts again.
Does the sound of the siren not scare you?
Not anymore.
He says it's normal now. He may be defiant, but he's still on edge. This bang is just a minor car crash as people rush to get home during the sirens. And the sirens keep sounding, often not until after the dull thud of rockets have struck. Paula Hancock's CNN, Haifa, Israel.
In tonight's poll, do you believe it is time for the United States, the European Union, Russia, and the United Nations to convene an emergency session to formulate new solutions to the Middle East crisis? Yes or no? Please cast your vote at LouDobbs.com. The results coming up here later in the broadcast. U.S. Marines may be sent deep into Hezbollah-controlled parts of Lebanon, trying to rescue trapped Americans there. The Pentagon fears Hezbollah will target U.S. warships in the evacuation effort. We'll have a live report for you from the Pentagon coming up. And deadly clashes tonight continue between Israeli troops and Hezbollah terrorists on the Israel-Lebanon border. Christiane Amanpour will report live from northern Israel. She'll have the latest for us. And the U.S. Congress tonight poised to grant a Mideast nation the right to control our ports. What have we learned from the Dubai ports debacle? We'll have that special report and much more coming right up.
Pillaging was great this time of year, but with so many people switching to Capital One, we've taken jobs as camp counselors. Burnt a village to the ground, doo-dah, doo-dah. We're not exactly role models.
For low rates and great rewards, switch to Capital One.
What's in your wallet? Put your butts into it.
Hello, I'm a Mac. And I'm a PC. We've got a little network going here, and it was very easy to set up. We speak each other's language. We share our internet connection and all sorts of things we do together. Who's this now? What's...
Oh, this is that new digital camera from Japan. Just came out. Hajimemashite.
Hajimemashite.
Yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Wait. You speak her language?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everything just kind of works with a Mac. Arigato.
Darren, so otakuっぽくない?
So?
Buongiorno. Hello.
We refinanced our first mortgage and consolidated our loans, and we were able to lower our monthly payment by $800, and it was very quick.
Log on or call 1-800-71-FIXED.
What if your hero sacrificed your husband, and he's still your hero? In the footsteps of Bin Laden, Wednesday, August 23rd, only on CNN.
Where are you going to find the largest Chrysler Jeep inventory in the Northwest? Dick Hanna's Chrysler Jeep in the giant Vancouver Auto Mall. And during employee pricing, plus, everyone can afford a brand new 06 Jeep Wrangler, just $196 a month. $196 a month for an 06 Wrangler, plus become a customer for life with tires, car washes, rental cars for life, and more. $196 a month for an 06 Wrangler only at Dick Hanna's Chrysler Jeep in the giant Vancouver Auto Mall.
Had it with slow downloads? With Comcast high-speed internet, there's no waiting for downloads or a great deal. Call 1-800-COMCAST and save big during our $1 sale. Get 1 month of blazing fast Comcast high-speed internet service for just $1. Free modem lease for 1 full year and professional installation for only $10. Save over $175. Hurry, the $1 sale ends August 7th. So call 1-800-COMCAST today.
An American evacuated from Beirut, plus a former Hezbollah hostage. Larry King, 9 Eastern.
Tonight, Israeli troops are fighting Hezbollah terrorists in southern Lebanon. Today, Hezbollah hit northern Israel with more rocket attacks. A missile attack killed 2 children, the deaths coming in the mostly Christian and Muslim town of Nazareth. Lebanon's prime minister says now more than 300 Lebanese have been killed, 1,000 more wounded since the beginning of this conflict. The U.S. general in charge of the evacuation says 1,100 American citizens have been evacuated from Lebanon. That brings the total number so far to nearly 1,500 Americans taken out of Beirut. Let's take a quick look now before we return to our coverage. Let's take a look at some of your thoughts. Harris in West Virginia said about the conflict, Lou, read the Holy Bible and then you will understand why there is no peace in the Middle East. I don't hear much about revelations in the news media. Michael in Oregon, Lou, with all of our attention being focused on the Middle East, would you please continue to keep an eye on our Senate so they don't give away what's left of our country? We certainly will. And Russell in North Carolina said, Lou, from observing how the majority of your viewers vote on these polls, I'm for them running our country instead of those we have. Bobby in Ohio, dear Lou, is it me or is Congress getting more shifty by the day? Just who in the hell can we trust? And Rick in California, look, comprehensive seems to be the new buzzword. as in comprehensive immigration reform. How's this? I want comprehensive enforcement of our current deportation laws. And surely in Iowa, comprehensive has become a four-letter word around our house. Send us your thoughts to LouDobbs.com. More of your thoughts coming up here later. Opposition is rising in Congress tonight over a so-called free trade agreement with the Middle Eastern country of Oman. Critics say the agreement would damage this nation's port security and certainly national security. Bill Tucker has the report.
The objections were clear and plain. The idea of guaranteeing Oman or Omani companies the right to own and operate facilities in American ports is unacceptable.
How in the world can this country, with what's happening in Lebanon and Israel today, and what is happening in Iraq and Afghanistan, how and why in the world would we even consider jeopardizing our ports by allowing a foreign country to have access?
It's unconscionable to knowingly agree to any trade agreement that contains obligations that limit our national security authority regarding sensitive infrastructure such as our ports.
The administration defends that promise, saying there is a security provision which would give the United States final say in any deal. But under the terms of the agreement, that decision would not be at the discretion of the United States. We would have to defend any such decision before a foreign tribunal.
This agreement would allow a separate nation onto sovereign American soil and let them control one of our ports. That's insane.
And clearly, the battle of Dubai Ports World taking over port operations is much fresher in the minds of Congress than the administration.
The same people who supported the Dubai World Ports deal are telling us again that there's nothing to worry about with the Bush-Oman trade deal. They were wrong before, and they're wrong now.
DPW promised to sell off those facilities to a private operator, but 4 months after the promise, no buyer has been announced. A vote on the free trade agreement with Oman is scheduled for tomorrow, Thursday. Still to come, the free trade agreement with Peru, which contains the same guarantees, and the Dubai government, through DPW, already runs and operates ports in Peru, which would mean they'd have the legal right to keep those properties and run them here.
As these are all approved by the U.S. Congress and this president, as we were just saying to our viewer who had written in, we will continue to watch very carefully. We guarantee it. Bill Tucker, thank you for doing so. Right now, Israeli Defense Forces are battling Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. We're live in the Middle East. We'll have complete coverage, the very latest from Christiane Amanpour. She is now on the Israeli-Lebanese border. Also at this hour, more American citizens in Lebanon preparing to be evacuated. We'll have that live report from both Beirut and Cyprus. And in Chicago, thousands of demonstrators today marched demanding, not amnesty, but that the U.S. government immediately stop deporting illegal aliens. We'll have that special report, plus complete live coverage of the Middle Eastern conflict. Still ahead. Stay with us.
Test drive the CTS at the Cadillac Summer Event. Going on now.
I'm Paul McWaney, and this is my story. I've been playing the bass since I was 16 years old, and I noticed when I'd be practicing and playing rehearsals, I'd start stiffing up, and I was like, what is this? I ended up going to the doctor, and turns out that I have arthritis. My friend from softball told me about Aleve, and I tried it out, and it works great. It loosens it up, takes the pain away, and enables me to play. Aleve helps me play, but it doesn't make me a better player.
E-Loan's loan consultants don't make money based on the rate of your loan, so you get the rate you deserve. No wonder home buyers are so excited about E-Loan. That's just one of the revolutionary ways we're changing the lending industry. E-Loan. Radically simple.
The crisis in the Middle East, live on CNN Pipeline. Up to 4 feeds from CNN Crews on the Scene, CNN International, plus Arab and Israeli TV networks. Live right on your desktop. Go to cnn.com/pipeline and start your free trial.
We have got to cut costs, people. Ideas.
We could open an account on FedEx.com, save 15% on online express shipping.
Okay, how about this? We open an account on FedEx.com, we save 15% on online express shipping.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. You just said the same thing I said, only you did this.
No, I did this.
Makes all the difference.
Bingo.
That's good.
Right on the nose.
Really good. Great idea.
Fierce fighting raging tonight between Israeli troops and Hezbollah terrorists just inside Lebanon. Israeli aircraft have destroyed a suspected Hezbollah command bunker located in southern Beirut. The Israelis said they dropped 23 tons of explosives. A U.S. chartered ship carrying more than 1,000 American evacuees from Lebanon has arrived in Cyprus. Up to 6,000 other Americans will be evacuated from Lebanon over the next several days. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice heading to the United Nations. She'll be here tomorrow in New York for talks on the Middle East conflict. Rice is set to discuss the widening conflict with UN Secretary General Kofi Annan and European officials. She's not announced when she will travel to the Mideast, although that trip has been rumored to begin Friday. The U.S. Navy has deployed 9 ships to the eastern Mediterranean to help evacuate Americans from Lebanon. Those ships will also protect rescue ships from a possible attack by Hezbollah missiles. Last week, Hezbollah fired a missile that disabled an Israeli warship. Jamie McIntyre has the report from the Pentagon.
The amphibious transport ship USS Nashville will be the first American warship to pick up U.S. civilians from Beirut. While it's on a mission of mercy, that doesn't mean it couldn't also become a terrorist target.
I'm concerned about attacks on ships, you bet.
For now, the sea lanes between Lebanon and Cyprus are considered a, quote, permissive environment, both for commercial vessels and military ships ferrying foreign nationals to safety. Still, CNN's Barbara Starr on board the Nashville reports the ship's commander is taking no chances.
There will be, make no mistake, a series of extraordinary security measures for the Marines when they go to Beirut. We have been asked not to be specific about those measures.
The stakes were raised when an Iranian-made C-802 anti-ship missile hit an Israeli warship Friday, revealing a capability few suspected Hezbollah possessed, the means to strike a ship as far as 10 miles from shore. U.S. warships, including the Nashville, are equipped with the Navy's Phalanx system. The defense against anti-ship missiles features a sensitive tracking radar that looks like R2-D2 on steroids, coupled with 6 20-millimeter Gatling guns that fire more than 4,000 rounds a minute, knocking down incoming missiles with a wall of metal. It's good against high-tech missiles, but the threat is from low-tech rockets as well.
American military planners are going to have to think very carefully about making sure that Hezbollah or Iran doesn't fire anti-shipping cruise missiles or artillery rockets at some of the evacuation points, at the evacuation ships or some of our warships.
As an extra precaution, Pentagon sources say the Nashville will likely remain several miles offshore and use its landing craft and helicopters to ferry Americans from the port to the ship. Lou?
Jamie, thank you very much for that. Jamie McIntyre from the Pentagon. In just a moment, we'll have for you the latest on the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, a live report from Christiane Amanpour on the Israel-Lebanon border. But first, these headlines. A U.S. Marine has been killed in Al Anbar province in Iraq as a result of a non-hostile incident, as the military has put it. Elsewhere in Iraq today, a U.S. soldier died when an improvised explosive device detonated. 2,555 of our troops have now been killed in Iraq. The violence continued today in Baghdad. A wave of terrorist attacks killed at least 19 Iraqis, including a family of 4 at a grocery store. Their killings come despite increased security measures put into place in the Iraqi capital. In this country, a heat wave gripping much of the nation still tonight. In the Plain States today, temperatures exceeded 100 degrees. Soaring heat also persisting in the deep south and west. A cold front provided relief for much of the northeast. Meth continues to be the leading drug problem in this country. According to a survey of law enforcement officials, meth is now considered to be more of a problem than cocaine, marijuana, and heroin combined. And in a disturbing trend, meth abuse, which for years was a problem in rural West Coast communities, is now moving east in epidemic proportions. In Chicago today, illegal aliens and their supporters staged a massive demonstration, and they demanded expanded rights for illegal aliens. Tens of thousands of these demonstrators calling for an immediate end to the deportation of illegal aliens. And the protesters and demonstrators denounced new local crackdowns on employers and landlords hiring and housing illegal aliens. On the U.S. border with Mexico, sheriff's deputies in Maricopa County, Arizona, picked up some 100 illegal aliens stranded in the desert in punishing triple-digit degree heat. These illegal aliens were abandoned by their smugglers. They were turned over to federal immigration officials. The Internal Revenue Service is now warning churches and nonprofit groups against improper political campaigning this election season. The Internal Revenue Service says it could endanger their tax-exempt status. This notice has gone out to more than 15,000 tax-exempt organizations and churches throughout the country. A group called the We Are America Alliance has launched a nationwide drive to register large numbers of what they call immigrant voters before Election Day. This drive is raising new concerns and fears that illegal aliens will also be registered to vote in the November elections. Casey Wyan has the story from Los Angeles.
They call it the Summer of Democracy, a nationwide effort to transform 1 million immigrants into registered voters before the midterm elections this fall.
We saw the millions that went out to march from March to May of this year for immigrant rights, and now what we're seeing is that people are realizing that we have to take that energy and the strength in the marches to the ballot box.
The group says it's targeting the 9 million immigrants who are eligible to become U.S. citizens and another 3 million adult children of immigrants who are eligible to vote but haven't registered.
Nothing is more important than for people to become citizens, to register and vote, so that people will hear you.
But there's little to prevent millions of non-citizens and even illegal aliens from registering as well. Only 2 states, Arizona and New Hampshire, require registered voters to prove they're citizens. The issue of illegal aliens voting has been simmering in Washington since 1996, when Loretta Sanchez ousted Orange County, California Congressman Bob Dornan. Illegally cast ballots were responsible for 80% of her narrow margin of victory. In 2004, New Mexico uncovered more than 3,000 fraudulent voter registrations, many tied to immigrant rights groups. And this year, unsuccessful Democratic congressional candidate Francine Busby declared, you don't need papers for voting.
Many states are looking at photo ID. They're looking at safeguards to make sure that citizens only are voting. One of the problems of low voter turnout is concerns and lack of confidence in the outcome. If you don't have safeguards going in, you certainly are not going to give the voter any confidence in what comes out.
Illinois Congressman Henry Hyde has introduced a bill that would require all states to demand proof of citizenship for voter registration and a photo ID to vote. Illegal alien advocates are mobilizing a letter-writing campaign to fight those proposed requirements. They claim that demanding proof of citizenship would disenfranchise many poor and elderly voters. However, polls show that 80% of the American voting public actually approves proof of citizenship or photo ID requirements for voting, Lou.
Particularly when there is no equivocation whatsoever on the parts of these voter drives, they mean to get who they can.
Yeah, absolutely, and they apparently have a very short memory, because they say that they're trying to sign up immigrants and presumably get immigrants who would be more sympathetic to amnesty. But if they remember back to Proposition 200 in Arizona just 2 years ago, nearly half of all Latino voters voted in favor of that, which required proof of citizenship for voting, Lou.
Absolutely, Casey. Thank you very much. Casey Wyan reporting from Los Angeles. Also tonight, President Bush has warned Mexican President Vicente Fox that time is running out on U.S. immigration reform, as the president calls it, comprehensive immigration reform. President Bush told President Fox Congress is unlikely, in his opinion, to pass an immigration bill before the November elections. U.S. states are being forced to fight this immigration crisis themselves in the absence of federal leadership and action. 27 states now across the country have passed bills cracking down on illegal immigration. And an immigration and customs enforcement officials has actually spoken out directly about our nation's border crisis. ICE spokesperson Mark Raimondi said September 11th proves there can be no national security without an immigration system that enforces our immigration laws. which is what we've been saying here for a number of years. Tonight, Israel says it has dropped massive explosives on a suspected Hezbollah command bunker in Beirut. We'll be bringing you the very latest. And from the Israel-Lebanon border, reports of more fierce fighting. A village in northern Israel has been hard hit by Hezbollah rockets. We'll have that live report for you. Today, some members of Congress challenged the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board. They warned him about harm to this country's, are you ready? Concern expressed about the harm to our middle class. Imagine that in Washington, D.C. Stay with us for that and our continuing coverage of the Middle.
For a smarter way to move, we designed the PODS container. We deliver it, you pack it in your own time, then we move it. Or store it in our warehouse till you're ready. Safe, easy PODS for moving and storing.
Thanks for calling Dell. What can we build for you?
Well, my family needs a new computer.
Great, let's get started. What do you think you'll be using it for the most?
My kids are really into games, and I do a little video editing, you know.
I'd set you up with a high-performance graphics card, and you might want a faster processor.
Yeah, you know, that's probably a good idea.
Okay, now let's talk about a monitor.
I was thinking about a 20-inch. But wait, let's step it up to the widescreen.
You got it. All right, you're all set. We'll send it right out.
Great, thanks.
At Dell, we don't build technology for just anyone. We build it for only one. You. Dell. Purely you. For just $449, build this Dell Dimension E310 with an Intel Pentium 4 with HT technology and get a 17-inch flat panel upgrade and free shipping.
Just within the past hour, the ocean liner Orient Queen has arrived in Larnaca, Cyprus from Beirut. About 1,000 U.S. and British citizens now out of the war zone as a result. Maryland officials are preparing for the repatriation of Americans evacuated from Lebanon. Hundreds will be arriving at the Baltimore-Washington International Airport over just the next several days. And tonight, the Pentagon is considering flying U.S. Marine units deep into the interior parts of Lebanon, controlled by Hezbollah, to rescue stranded Americans. Those Marine helicopters would be flying over Hezbollah territory if the mission does go ahead. Tonight, there is heavy fighting in southern Lebanon between Israeli troops and Hezbollah terrorists. Israeli troops attacking Hezbollah outposts and searching for Hezbollah rocket launchers. Christian Amanpour joins us now live from the Israeli-Lebanese border. Christian?
Well, Lou, it's been quite a heavy day of fighting, exchange of fire between Israel and the Hezbollah guerrillas all day along this northern border. Right here in the town of Metula where we are, in the evening, there was a very harsh exchange of fire, and there was even some suggestion by some of the forces here that there may have been an infiltration of some Hezbollah guerrillas into this little town. We saw a lot of ground forces trying to search them out. We heard a huge amount of outgoing artillery, and we also heard machine gun fire, but it still hasn't been confirmed whether or not there was an infiltration. Meanwhile, all during the day, despite the Israeli push, there has been a huge barrage of Hezbollah rockets onto positions in Avivim, which is where we were, and which was the site of the fiercest clashes between the Israeli forces and the Hezbollah. This, we're told, started when Israeli forces went into an area of southern Lebanon by the border to try to take out Hezbollah outposts, and they started a confrontation, or it started at that point. 2 Israeli soldiers killed, some 9 were wounded, and then throughout the day, barrages of Hezbollah rockets on some of the towns in northern Israel, as far south as Nazareth, also Haifa. In Nazareth, 2 children were killed. In Haifa, there wasn't any damage. Lou?
Christian, thank you very much. Christian Amanpour reporting from the Lebanese-Israeli border tonight. I'm joined now by 3 leading authorities on the Middle East here in New York. Joining me, Gary Sick. He is professor at Columbia University, serving on the National Security Council staff. From Philadelphia, Daniel Pipes, the director of the Middle East Forum, well-versed on radical Islamist terrorists, an expert on the Middle East. From Washington, D.C., Judith Kipper, advisor to the Council of Foreign Relations for Middle East Programs. We thank you all for being here. Let me turn to you first, Professor Sick. Does it appear to you that Israel is going to be successful in its determination to strike both Hezbollah and get rid of its infrastructure and its weaponry?
I think they're being quite successful at striking the infrastructure and getting rid of some of the weapons. I understand the objective is really to eliminate Hezbollah as an issue. I don't think that's really feasible. I think because of its political background and where it stands presently, eliminating it is going to be impossible unless they go through another invasion again.
Is an invasion possible, Judith Kipper?
I think an invasion is possible, but a limited invasion. Israel had a very, very bad experience in Lebanon, occupied a certain part of the south for 18 years, and still has Hezbollah on its border. Hezbollah is an idea, and it is expressed in a political party, a social welfare organization, and a highly, highly trained militia. They can get their weapons and their hideouts, but they are not going to be able to eliminate their fighters or the ideology that Hezbollah is inspired by.
Daniel Pipes, with those cautionary words by both Judith Kipper and Gary Sick, Israel has really no choice but to succeed against Hezbollah if it is to remain a sovereign nation, correct?
Hezbollah is a real challenge to Israel, a new kind of challenge to Israel, but I agree with both of the others on this panel that Israel's means are limited. I think what Israel can achieve is not the eradication, root and branch of Hezbollah, but what it can do, and this will take time, will be to convince Lebanese in general, Shia in particular, Hezbollah members especially, that they can't win, that this won't go anywhere, that there's nothing to gain by continuing to attack Israel, that they're in fact going to suffer more consequences, more bad consequences by doing this.
Israel, Professor Sick, withdraws from Gaza, withdraws from Lebanon, is moving back in the West Bank, and doing so unilaterally, an expression of good faith. And then Hezbollah, for its political reasons or for whatever, kills Israeli soldiers, kidnaps 3 of them, 2 at the center of this conflict now. Are we at a situation where suddenly we have to say 58 years of violence, this cycle of madness has to end, we convene the quartet, and we say there will be an imposed peace in the Middle East?
I would like to think that there's a nice silver bullet somewhere that we can pull out of our pocket and say this is going to be the solution to the problem. It's never worked in the past, and
But we haven't done that.
We've never tried to impose a formal settlement on the region. We have used our influence very strongly to bring the parties along and get them to agree to something. And basically, if you look at what Israel, for instance, went into Lebanon to impose a solution on them, and in fact they created Hezbollah in the process of doing that, and basically created a whole new set of ideologies that they've had to face. So
when you say they created both Iran and Syria, in effect,
they sponsors came in to help, but in fact it was in reaction to the Israeli behavior that did it.
Judith Kipper, the idea of the world saying enough, 2 states will exist side by side, the region will adjust, will accept it, and the powers will enforce an imposed settlement. Is that an approach that you would be able to support?
I don't think an imposed settlement is necessary because the Israelis and the Palestinians at Taba, an Egyptian resort, in the year 2001 actually worked out a detailed peace agreement that is forgotten, but it's not lost. And the vast majority of Israelis and Palestinians, no matter how or when you measure it, between 60 and 90%, not only support that arrangement, which has been published, and they also wish it to be implemented. They want the problem solved. They want it to be implemented.
Then how, Judith, do we make it happen? Because my guess is that the world who cares about life and whether Hezbollah or Israeli, whether Iraqi or American, is about to say enough. This is perpetrating madness.
It is perpetrating madness, and all of what we see is a function of non-settlement of the Israeli-Palestinian problem. What's required is for the President of the United States to take an initiative, a diplomatic initiative, with the support of NATO, the UN, the Security Council, the G8, the Arab states who have squarely blamed Hezbollah for this, and who have all agreed, the Arab states, to make peace with Israel, full normal relations once the Palestinian problem is solved.
Daniel Pipes, your view.
I've got a different view on this one. I think the notion of an imposed peace is an oxymoron. It cannot happen. Peace comes when one side gives up. And either the Israelis are going to give up and there'll be no more Israel, or the Palestinians, Hezbollah, and others will give up and there will be finally a resolution of the conflict. But it can't be imposed. It can't be brokered.
But tonight, Daniel, there may be no more Lebanon at this rate, and there may be Hezbollah, there may be Israel, and there may be Hamas. Why should the world tolerate this approach? And why in particular should the United States, which has invested blood, money, and Israel for 58 years doing the same, why in the world should we not simply demand rationality and an even two-state solution in the Middle East, and in this sponsorship of terror by Syria, Iran, the funding by Saudi Arabia, although I must give Saudi Arabia straightforwardly credit for stepping up here against Hezbollah. I mean, why should we tolerate any more of this predictive, conventional, and tried and trashed approach that is we've endured for 58 years in this world?
I completely sympathize with your anguish, but I fear the historical record shows that wars end when one side gives up, not because we're anguished about it, because we're fed up with it. We're not about to put our troops in the way between Hezbollah and Israel. We're not about to take responsibility, and short of that, all we can do is help them broker some kind of resolution. All we can do is help the Israelis finally achieve their goal of signaling to Hezbollah, to Hamas, and to others that this is futile. Don't bother with this. It's not going to work.
Daniel Pipes, as always, good to have you here. Gary Sick, thank you very much. Judith Kipper in Washington, thank you. Coming up at the top of the hour here on CNN, the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. Wolf.
Thanks very much, Lou. A massive bomb hits a bunker in Beirut. Did Israel decapitate the leadership of Hezbollah? We're going to go there live. Take a look. There are concerns that Hezbollah may plan to hit some targets in the United States. Our Kelly Arena is on top of the story. Also, we'll go live to Cyprus, where a ship has arrived carrying Americans away from danger in Lebanon. But we'll also report on some other Americans who are actually right now moving to Israel in the middle of a war. What's up with that? Mary Snow standing by to tell us. All that, Lou, coming up at the top of the hour.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Wolf Blitzer. This just into CNN over just the past few minutes, and let's go to the House of Representatives right now. These are the votes being taken on, as we said, President Bush using the first veto of his presidency to vote down stem cell research, passed obviously by both the House and the Senate. The House right now voting to overcome that veto. It is now obvious they will not have the votes necessary to overcome that veto to fund federal research in stem cell research. The bill was approved by the House a year ago with strong bipartisan support. President Bush threatened to veto, and today he did just that. This is the first time that President Bush has used his veto power again, the House failing to muster enough votes to overturn the president's veto on stem cell research funding. A reminder now to vote in our poll. Do you believe it's time for the United States, the European Union, Russia, and the United Nations to convene an emergency session to formulate new solutions to the Middle East crisis? Yes or no? Please cast your vote at LouDobbs.com. We'll have the results coming up here in just a few moments. U.S. Marines may soon be flying rescue missions deep into Hezbollah-controlled southern Lebanon, and Israel says it's attacked a Hezbollah command bunker in Beirut, dropping 23 tons of explosives. More Americans being evacuated from Lebanon as we speak. We'll have the latest on the Mideast conflict next. And on Capitol Hill today, Congress is doing something very rare indeed, standing up for the middle class. We'll have that report and a great deal more still ahead. Stay with us.
Okay, let's do it. Stand by, Wolf. Stand by, everyone. Come to me. Here's my take cue. Music, hold. Straight to you, Wolf. Roll to gear, one track, go.
Ever get the feeling your advertising is reaching the wrong people? Comcast Spotlight can help. With dozens of networks to choose from, you can run your message only on the shows your customers are watching. You can even target your message geographically to reach your customers where they live. Comcast Spotlight. TV advertising without the waste.
For more information, call our Portland office.
Whether you're buying one rig or 20, your timing couldn't be better. It's Commercial Truck Month at Newburgh Ford, where you'll find a great selection and the most competitive fleet prices in the entire Northwest. Our commercial truck experts make the entire process quicker and easier. Well-equipped F-250 Super Duties from less than $22,000. Get incredible maneuverability and fuel economy with a new diesel LCF for less than $30,000. It's Commercial Truck Month here at Newburgh Ford of Mercury. We just work harder for you.
VHICS.com helps people find the car they want at a dealer near them. How do we improve that user experience?
Include a vanity mirror so people can get an idea of how they look in their new car. Give them a free VHICS comb, too.
And your idea?
VHICS TV. Not just web pages, cool video test drives powered by Wheels TV.
Cool video test drives, now at VHICS.com. Just click Autos on Comcast.net.
Oh, no. Mark Henry destroyed Batista.
A champion crushed and injured.
I am the world's strongest man.
Now, at the Great American Bash, Batista is back.
It's time to unleash the animal.
Batista returns to face Mark Henry. The Great American Bash. Live Sunday, July 23rd on Events in Demand pay-per-view.
Paul is on now. CNN tonight, 8 Eastern.
Israeli warplanes tonight attacked a suspected Hezbollah command bunker located in southern Beirut. Hezbollah's leadership claims no one was hurt in that attack. Israeli soldiers and Hezbollah terrorists are clashing inside Lebanon tonight. More Hezbollah rockets falling deep into northern Israel today. 2 Israeli children, 2 Israeli soldiers dying today. A U.S. chartered ship chartered for the evacuation of American citizens, carrying nearly 1,000 of our citizens and evacuees from Lebanon, arriving in Cyprus tonight. Up to 6,000 other Americans will be evacuated from Lebanon over the next several days. 2 notable results from Tuesday's Georgia primary election. This country's Christian right taking in the defeat of former Christian coalition leader Ralph Reed. He lost his bid to be the Republican nominee for lieutenant governor and allegations of connections to the Jack Abramoff scandal. And U.S. Congressman Cynthia McKenna now faces a runoff. She failed to win 50% of the vote. The Democrat made headlines this spring, of course, with her run-in with a U.S. Capitol Police officer, a grand jury declining to indict her. Congress finally coming to the realization that this nation's war against the middle class is for real, it is widening, and it is worsening. Congress warned Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke today that middle-class workers and their families are falling farther behind in this so-called healthy U.S. economy. Lisa Sylvester reports.
The gap between the haves and the have-nots in the United States is widening. For the haves, profits are up. CEO pay is soaring. For the have-nots, most Americans, credit card debt is growing, gas prices spiking, and paychecks shrinking.
The squeeze that middle-class families are feeling on all sides right now, being hit by slowdown in terms of their wages, maybe losing a job, healthcare costs going up.
Factoring in inflation, hourly wages actually fell more than half a percentage point in the last year. A new survey found 82% of Americans are very worried about personal debt.
Who is this economy working for? I agree that inequality is potentially a concern for the U.S. economy. I think the only long-term solution to this problem is to try to upgrade the skill levels of our workers.
But it's not just low-skilled work that's vanishing. Higher-skilled, higher-paid jobs like software engineering are also being outsourced.
Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke did not have any quick fixes. He forecasted that wages will increase over time, but he acknowledged it's been slow in coming. Lou?
Oh, that aggravates me, Lisa, to hear the Fed chairman say it's the skills of American workers when he knows full well, absolutely, with an absolute certainty, that the fact of the matter is it's an issue of creating jobs, high-paying jobs, and not forcing this middle class to compete with cheap foreign workers, whether we're importing them illegally from Mexico primarily and the rest of Central and South America, or exporting jobs to cheap labor markets. I mean, that's just infuriating.
It's one of those excuses we hear time and time again, Lou.
Well, good for Congress, good for Debbie Stabenow, good for people in that city finally understanding it's who the people are that make this country work. Lisa Sylvester, thank you very much. Coming up next, the results of our poll tonight, much more, well, at least a little more. Stay with us.